call the meeting to order at 19:07. Quorum is present. The meeting is duly constituted. First order of business is to approve the agenda. May I have a motion and a second? I'm just going to look over here. I'm just going to assume, unless you say yes or no, because we only have two people, so one of you is going to have to be the mover and one of you is going to have to be the seconder. If you don't wish to move or second, just say so. Otherwise, I'm just going to do it on the... Yeah. Well, not on the nod because we have to say it for the record, but it's you two guys. So, mover and a seconder. Any adds, subtracts, deletes?
I'm fine.
Yep.
Yep.
So under 7D, we're missing paragraph sub D of the recommendation. It's in the report, but it just somehow didn't get transferred to the agenda itself.
Okay, well, let's just add, for now, we'll just say per report, but you can amend the agenda accordingly. Shauna, thank you. Okay, cheers, Peter.
Under 10, there's an additional fees bylaw amendment, which is tied to number 12A, which is the report on metered parking. So I had it down as 10E, but it should probably be considered after considering 12A. So
12B?
it just belongs with the bylaws, but
Okay, so
let's
we'll defer
consider
that.
it.
But where is that?
It's on table. Shauna, have you? Yeah, okay, so it'll be one of the on-table matters.
Okay, well, I'll ask for council's say-so on this. I mean, we haven't even seen this thing yet, and yet we're expected to debate it. We haven't even provided it before the meeting
Yeah,
starts.
there's not much to debate. It's a question of whether or not, if you make a decision with respect to 12A, then you need to have this bylaw amendment. All it does is provide for a fee amendment so that you can charge for a meter. If you have metered parking, you have to have it in your fees bylaw that you can charge it. So that's all it does.
Okay, fair enough.
But we've had an increasing amount of on-table stuff lately. And I know that when it comes up that quickly, the way we work, detailed as we try to be, it slows us down a lot in the meetings. And we lose more ground than we gain by pushing that stuff through that way.
And we lose council input. There's no way that council can abide on something on
discussion that goes on. And I'm relatively quick at studying this stuff, but sometimes some of the stuff loses me when I'm in the middle of knowing what we're going to do, and then we got on-table stuff there. So it concerns me a little bit that we've got so much of the on-table stuff.
Yeah, and in the circumstances of this meeting, and the reason there's so much stuff is there's no gappage like we sometimes get with an extra week. There's a lot of stuff coming forward, and there's feedback that I didn't receive until last week, and I was gone for the last half of the week on holiday. So trying to bring it forward so that you can consider it. If you don't want to consider it, you can push it off to the next meeting or push it off altogether. That's up to you guys. But I felt it was important to bring this stuff forward because there has been a push for it, for staff to bring it. So that's why it's here.
I respect that. So we do. It's not that. I'm just saying.
I'm just letting you know why there is.
That's good. No, that's valuable.
Okay, in the process of adopting the agenda, can we get that?
Get what?
If we're adding a discussion of an on-table item to the agenda, can we get the on-table item?
Certainly, yeah. I just thought I'd finish going through and then.
Okay, well, let's. Okay, we'll take the one. So everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
So the next additional on-table item is the actual RFD request for decision for metered parking, which was anticipated to be on table regardless when this agenda was
you provided that some days ago.
last week.
So that's under new business, right?
12A.
That's under new business, 12A, yeah.
Okay,
I had something for 12B, but the mayor does not want to bring it forward, so we'll pass on that. And
It's not the mayor, the chair. In this case.
The mayor is the chair in this case.
Yeah, I know that. In my capacity as the chair. Simply because I didn't believe that it was ready for prime time. But as you've agreed not to present it, it's moot. Fine.
In terms of closed council meeting, we need to add 91J, which is pursuant to Section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act,
FOIPA matter, okay.
and 92B, which is municipal provincial discussions of a confidential nature.
That's the other levels of government discussion?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And seeing as we're the lowest, they're only higher. Okay,
That's it.
that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as amended, all in favor and opposed, that carries. Public participation?
The only thing I noticed that as I was coming down the road, they still have the library sign up now, it's so that.
Yeah, I've pointed that out several times, but that'll get handled. I'm not going to make that into an IRR even. Okay, thanks for that. There are no delegations, so we'll move on to approval of prior minutes. Mine is more my only question here is a technical one. Do we pay more to our photocopy provider for color copies versus black and white copies?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so this is color. Is it at all possible to print it in black and white? It's minor. And the other one I had was that the statement I read out under 10B is missing the most important part, which was where I stated that the decision was unanimous with 4 votes out of 4. Do we care to have that in the minutes? It's on the audio.
I actually think that that's probably a good idea,
Yeah,
because it's very clear, it becomes very clear then.
I
that
stated
council
it
was
explicitly for that
unanimous.
reason.
Yes.
So that there was absolutely no dispute that it was not unanimous and the number of votes, so that somebody doesn't say in the future, well, you were short one councillor and trying to pull a fast one, even though 4 votes out of 5 would still have been a vote.
Yeah.
So can we say that we'd like to see the full text that I provided to you, I think, Shauna?
It was at the very beginning of,
No, here at the very end.
at the very end?
Yeah.
Okay.
It goes all the way up to, I think motion carried. And that's all I had. Anybody else?
Just a note about the colored copies, if I
Yeah,
can.
yeah, sure.
The reason I do it in color is a lot of times there's bylaws and stuff that have red inline.
Yeah,
There's photos and stuff, and I can only, it's either black and white or it's colored.
yeah. Yeah, well, as I say, it's complete nicety. It's probably not worth worrying about. I'm just conscious that people are trying to go paperless, and this is the opposite. But yeah, let's.
It's up to council.
Yeah, no, but I would say, nobody's that exercised about that, I'm sure. Okay. So, approval of the minutes as amended. Have we moved and seconded that?
No.
Okay, thanks. So we'll take that as a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That carries. And business arising from the minutes. Only the one set. Anything? None? We'll move on to unfinished business, starting with item number 2 from January 10th of this year, parking plan initiatives. Carl and staff. We're going to be seeing a recommendation in this regard tonight, so I would propose that we let that one sit.
Actually, I'm not sure that we are, because you pulled it.
No, we're seeing the pay parking recommendation.
Well, that's not what this is.
This is,
This is the wider ambit of parking plan
Okay.
initiatives that you just pulled.
I didn't pull anything. There was nothing to pull. There
Okay.
was an proposed on-table
Yes,
report.
okay, sorry. Go ahead.
So nothing's been pulled from any agenda. No progress on 2. 3. Shauna, I see your name's next to this now.
The pulling together?
Mm.
Yes, I contacted the organizer and there's nothing left for us to do. They've organized tents, they've organized drinks, they've organized garbage, everything, so we have nothing left to organize on our end.
Okay, good. Except the promotion to the community, of course.
Yeah, and we'll put something in the village update.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking also posters and stuff, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Canada Day celebration. I believe this is the last meeting before Canada Day. Anything you can tell us that we need to know? Did Ron have anything in his note? I don't remember.
The plaques have been ordered.
Yeah.
The rest is pretty much up to the events committee. They've
Yeah.
sort of, the MLA and MP have been invited, as well as the fire department and Squamish RCMP, the RCMP and the fire department will be attending. Pamela Goldsmith-Jones was a no, and I haven't heard from Jordan Street.
Okay, thanks.
That's all I know and am organizing on my end. The rest will be Kate Pratt.
Okay, sounds good. Did everybody see that Jordan Sturdy was made Minister of Environment?
No, he didn't.
It's on cabinet.
Good.
Oh,
Mm.
I thought there was a power struggle going on between NDP and...
Oh, that's another issue. But right
Well,
now,
that may well be.
right now the Liberals
part
are
of
the
it.
government. It's going to be quite a short-lived government, I suspect, unless they've got some trick up their sleeve. But
Man, you go to Tennessee for 5 days and everything changes.
oh yeah,
Y'all.
Yeah.
you got to read the Vancouver Sun. It's all in there. Okay, so there. Item number 10 we can strike because of the report in the agenda. So strike number 10 as done. And item number 16. Damn it, I still haven't done that. My bad. I will eventually. And IRRs, starting on page 17. We waived these last time, or we deferred these last time, so I suppose we should probably run through these quickly. We'll just go in the order that we see them there. Seeing as many of these are mine, I'm afraid I'll do most of the talking. Jump in if I've got it wrong. So now that electrical box at the school, the new one, does belong to Metro?
The new one?
No, it belongs to the school district. And they're fine with us using it, or with the emergency responders using it.
Metro put it in for MAMU, not the school district. There's a lock on it. It's not the school district's lock, according to the school district.
My understanding in speaking to Mr. Hickey, who's the superintendent of maintenance at West Van Schools, is that they have the key to that box.
Oh, they have the key. Okay,
Yes.
great. So that's what I need to know.
Yeah.
So how would emergency responders? It's search and rescue specifically.
I'm waiting for the key. He
Oh,
was
you're gonna
away
get
on
the key.
vacation. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, good. So Sean, I think we can put that one to bed. Do you know?
That's what
And the thing is that there is a plug on the irrigation control box down at the field level, but it's only 15 amp. And during the last incident, as I think you saw, there were extension cables snaking all over the parking lot to power radios, to power lights, to power coffee makers. It was dangerous. People were driving across the extension cord, and it wasn't enough wattage. Is there a plug in that box, Nye? Do you know?
I don't know. I haven't seen inside.
No, I don't know either. Okay, so we'll just leave it with search and rescue to do with that thing that they want. The Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi's done. We're getting a new Wi-Fi access point. Congratulations, thank you, well done. So, Shauna, we can put 135 to bed as well.
There's an additional part to that regarding the Clap building.
Good point, Peter. The CLAT building is not included in that. Staff will bring forward a report closer to budget time. It's a more significant ask.
Oh, okay. So Shauna, that can't be killed because it's half done. draw a /2 under the 135.
Can I ask, the will be done for next year or this year for class?
We'll bring it to the budget process in September, and then council can make a decision at that point. It's, I think it's upward of $4,500.
Oh,
Yeah. So, and we have to research whether or not it's beneficial to go that route, to have it connected to our server, or to get a high-end service dedicated to the cloud. I'm not sure.
yeah, it seems likely that to me that with an EOC meeting in there that you know something perfectly secure and uninterruptible.
Yeah.
Well, we can discuss it when it comes to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, the issue is more around the routing and the subnet that it uses. Yeah, I can see arguments in either direction. Any suggestion, Naya, on our ongoing cellular communication study around WiMAX for the village?
No, I'm not familiar with WiMAX.
Municipal Wi-Fi?
Oh, you mean public Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
For,
Yeah, well, it's for everything.
Yeah.
There's secure tunnels, there's...
That's not included in any of the cell tower RFP or...
Yeah, no, I know, but a provider might propose that, in which case individual Wi-Fi access points would become moot.
Yeah, I would suspect we need to ask for that.
Mm.
But then if we're going to go to cloud, we need something very secure.
Oh, I mean, it's as secure as any Wi-Fi. It's got VPNs or tunnels through it. It's fully encrypted, just like any Wi-Fi. Yeah, no, it's the only real issue around WiMAX is the public perception that it's radiation.
Oh.
Notwithstanding the fact that there's 400 Wi-Fi access points in Lions Bay today, not as powerful, mind you. So I don't know very much about it beyond that. So let's just leave it where it is for now. 136. Any updates there?
Yeah, there has been no changes to the wastewater regulations. The memo that was provided to Metro to your visit was specifically in response to questions by Electoral A with respect to their septic. And all that memo did was outline the changes in the 2012 regulations.
The existing regulations. So nothing new that we need to be
Nothing
aware
new.
of.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Fantastic. Thanks. That's. I'm satisfied with that. 136 can go, Shauna, can go to bed. And looks like 137 as well. So Nai, despite what I learned at the Electoral Area A Committee at Metro, our water licenses don't have expiries, because we know they predate the municipality.
No, I spent some time going through all the archives that they had, looking at every one of our licenses, reading through each agreement. There's no expiry date on any of them. And I don't recall an expiry date from our West Van licenses for Eagle Lake, etc.
It must be some sort of grandfather thing, and EA's newer maybe.
It could be groundwater licenses that have expiries,
Yeah.
but surface water it doesn't seem to.
But if they don't have expiry dates on them, then we're happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because,
Well, you can imagine my surprise and concern knowing that Lions Bay just had its 40th anniversary, and when I heard that the water licenses have 40-year terms, that was a bit concerning. But okay, all water licenses current, no expiry date noted. That's good enough for me. 137 can go to bed, Shauna. Yeah, I had this question around service levels, noting that we've got some very nice flowers, but 2 meters worth of weeds at our parking lots. But I've already been advised by the CAO to bring this to the strategy meeting that we're going to be holding in a few weeks' time. So months. I'm happy to put that one to bed as well, Shauna.
So that's 138.
138. Okay, a report on the status. We've got the report, and not much is happening right now, but that's good enough for 139 can go. 140. This was a very succinct report. As I suspected, if it's read in the Outlook reading pane, it does count as a read, but nothing else does. So I'm pretty, I think we can safely say the number of reads that we get from our mail client provider is close enough to reality. What do you say, Jim and Fred? You're both email guys.
Something in the forehead.
I don't know, my experience with that is that you can't really count on it because you don't know what the receipt really means, other than the fact the person opened it.
Or in some cases, just appeared in their reading pane.
It just appeared in the reading pane, that's right.
If it's Outlook.
'Cause I have that happen all the time in
Yeah,
mine.
yeah. So I mean, my ask there was because we have 500 and something subscribers and 300 and something opens, but I didn't really know what that meant. But I'm satisfied that that means it's close enough to 300 something opens for the people that don't have full-on Outlook. I suspect, I don't know, and I believe the report's probably available, but I haven't seen it. I suspect most clients are mobile clients these days. And if you open the Village update in a mobile client on a phone, it's all different. It's laid out differently. It's set up for that. It's very, it's a proper client.
What's the end goal?
Trying to understand the efficacy of email as a communications medium, as opposed to a newspaper, signage, knocking on door,
okay.
letters.
Okay, well then it probably, if someone opens it, you would one have to assume they've read it then, if that's the case.
You have
If
no
that's
better
what it is.
assumption.
Well, no,
As we know, there's our top priority, and I don't know how well we're doing it. But that's good enough for me. I'm satisfied with that, and I've already copied this into notes, so I have it. So 140 can go as well, Shauna. Thank you. 141, the report is that will come forward soon, so we can leave it like it is, I think. Thank you. Unless anybody wants to hear more about trail signage. My concern there, of course, is that every day without use at your own risk signage, from what little I understand about these things, we're at risk. Trail logger.
Traffic logger.
Traffic logger. Sorry. That's a Freudian slip. I also want a trail logger.
Yeah, I haven't talked to Kathy yet.
Okay. 142 stays where it is. 143. That's still being worked on.
What was the ask?
This, of course, is...
This is okay. So, my comment is that I see this as chasing down a rabbit hole. So, can you please explain what the reasoning is and the rationale for staff to spend a whole bunch of time figuring this out?
Certainly. So, when the government changes, the sums are going to be approaching the new Minister of Community Sport and Cultural Development and the Minister of Justice and say that Lions Bay never got its patrimony, unlike the older municipalities. We don't have land to sell. I want to be absolutely sure I'm making that claim correctly, because I don't want them to turn around and say, hang on a sec, we gave you your works yard. That's why.
Fair enough.
Plus a whole lot of other reasons, which I'd be pleased to go into without wasting council's time. 144. I believe, unless it's changed, I believe that we're not going to be tearing up the beach during the summer season, so it's going to happen right at the end of the year, despite...
At the end of the summer season, not end of the year.
Okay, you're aware that people use the beach through October.
If we postpone it to the end of the year, there will be problems with weather,
Tides,
mud.
yeah.
We'd have to...
I know.
So we're going to be doing it in about August, September. When
That's why council approved the preliminary budget in January. And specifically asked, in this case, was this project going to get done before the summer season started? We'll move on. 145. This is Ron's request. I'll speak for him. I think the suggestion was we'd use some concrete barriers there to make that area somewhat of a safety sidewalk as well. Is that correct, Peter?
Yep.
Okay, but we'll leave that one on there so that Ron can say yay or nay on its removal.
Can we go back to 144 for a minute?
Mm-hmm.
what's the scope that we're looking at here to get some of that stuff done? Like, is it is there some things in there that can be done in 2 days of bad weather in the summertime? Like, we keep coming through these weeks where we get 3 or 4 gray days, and when the beach doesn't have much use. So is it possible that some of that stuff can be started?
No, most of
No?
it involves
It's heavy-duty
steel
stuff?
forming,
Oh, okay, never mind.
excavation work.
All right, yeah, no, okay.
And bidding, and,
Yeah, no, I know.
and
Okay,
project
that's fine.
planning
Yeah,
and all that
no,
stuff.
that's
Yeah, no,
All right.
I wish that was the case.
It was just, I'm off the mall.
And I believe that there's still some debate around the replacement of the stairs at Kelvin, even though council did resolve to remove them entirely and not replace them. Correct?
No.
Is that how we eventually ended up? I can't remember.
Council, that was the recommendation from the Public Works Manager. Council chose to reinstate the stairs.
Did we?
Yeah, I think
Is that
so.
what we did?
Yeah, I did, I recall that.
Well, obviously, but that's what the plan is here, so that's, yeah.
Well, we did get something from a resident
Yeah.
requesting it.
Yeah.
Can't remember exactly.
But we also got something from another resident saying that's the wrong place for it.
So staff will take a look at the location,
Yeah.
look at the access, and determine if stairs will be appropriate or if a winding path may be better or a better location.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, my question is always around timing, not about the scope. I mean, obviously, we can leave that stuff up to your tender mercies. Okay, so that's that. The rest is all done. And we'll move on to motion and second that the IRRs be updated in accordance with the discussion. Can I have a thanks and a thanks? All in favor? Opposed? That carries. And temporary use permits, number 1702 on table. That is this marked up one here. You have seen it in the past. I know Ron made some comments. I assume they were incorporated, Peter?
Not necessarily incorporated. One of his comments was with respect to the amount of the security deposit,
Yeah.
which was previously 5,000. I've lowered that to 2,500 as a proposed amount for the security deposit. I think it ought to be something that's a little bit weighty, but not something that's necessarily
Yeah.
going to prevent somebody from wanting to do it if that's what they want to do.
My impression reading through that was that there's an incentive there, a disincentive, or an incentive to make people abide by the rules, period.
Yeah.
And that's what, and I agree with Ron, I think that the way it was before was too weighty. It needs to be a little bit lighter and say, hey, it's an incentive to do things right. If you choose to go the other way, then we'll have to change it.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, we don't want it to be a disincentive to actually do
That's
it.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So hopefully this strikes the right balance.
yes, I hope so.
Sorry, just remind me, is the $2,500, that's just a bond, right? That's not actual cash?
It can be either cash, deposit, bond, irrevocable letter of credit, or similar instrument.
So, yeah. Yeah, we're not trying to make money out of this. We're
No.
trying to control parking and noise.
It's just held, it's not,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't come to us unless we have to call on it for
Yeah.
whatever reason.
I'm fine with that, I suppose. I mean, we could also say that we'll ding you if you need to be fined. That's the alternative. But I'm fine with that. Yeah, I mean, as I alerted council, not that that my note to council was on the spectrum of decision making. That decision is being debated now. I was pretty good with everything in here as we saw it, except for this issue around not allowing secondary suites to be short-term rented, stipulating that they are only available for long-term rent. I gave several issues around that, and I'll be happy to speak to them. I suppose at the highest level, I would suggest that the Lions Bay way is, if you're going to rent your secondary suite to somebody in the long-term, firefighter, whoever it is, you're going to do it anyway. You're not going to necessarily say, hang on a sec, I'm now allowed to do a short-term rental and kick out the firefighter and start doing short-term rental. Maybe you will, I don't know. But I would say that's within somebody's scope of responsibility for them to decide, not for us to decide for them, if they want to kick out a long-term renter. I should also just say, because the CEO very correctly pointed out to me that it might be perceived that I have a conflict of interest here. I'm not going to declare a conflict of interest. I do have a secondary suite in my house. It's not rented short-term or long-term. It's not used by a family member. It's empty. Occasionally, I might want to put guests in there, non-paying, and I'm still waiting to hear whether that would in fact trigger the non-family fee for a secondary suite. Well, if I read the rules, it is non-family. The fact that money doesn't change hands is irrelevant, and I have to pay the $800 fee, the 40% uplift.
I think the response to that previously, wasn't it that you ought to remove the 240 connection for the stove?
Well, I'm not going to do that.
Okay, well, I think that
It's
was
kinda
that, I
built
think
in.
that was the response from the building inspector
I
that
could
I
put-
passed along.
Yeah, well,
So
what if you-
that would be, so you've been answered. It's not that you haven't been answered.
okay, so obviously council is going to have to work on that one later. I'm certainly not going to go and pull out my 240 volt wiring.
Well, it seems to me that if you have a guest for a month, and you stick them in your secondary suite that hadn't otherwise been used, it's really nobody's business.
According to our bylaw, it is.
Really.
It's a non-family member. I need to pay the utility fee uplift.
Yeah, I'm perfectly willing to take another look at it, because I think there are issues and considerations that we have to weigh in terms of you know, if it's non-commercial in nature, although I don't think it should be open to doing home exchanges or suite exchanges, but who you're putting in there is a family member who isn't paying you anything. But you know, the question is really one of safety. Is the area safe to be habitable? So I think that's sort of the overriding primary consideration.
Well, yeah, this is a
Um,
defined and inspected secondary
But
suite in my case.
if it's inspected and it's been installed in accordance with the rules and regulations around secondary suites, and everything is approved,
Mhm.
there should be no issue.
Well, the
of
only
that
issue
nature.
I think remaining would be whether or not, as one of the conditions for having a secondary suite, as we all know, is that you have adequate parking. So then that also, I mean, is that something that we kind of draw the line on, or is that something that we find a way to accommodate something that isn't your normal secondary suite situation? I don't know. I mean, you know, if we're only talking about a guest being in a secondary suite, or what would otherwise be a secondary suite, it's just part of your house, and they're a non-paying guest and they're there for a couple of weeks. Is that the same thing as requiring, whether it's parking or any other condition other than safety conditions?
Well, this is not, we're not actually debating the secondary suite surcharge
No,
right
okay,
now.
so yeah, we're getting
And I'll
kind
just
of
remind you that
off track here.
The
but-
original driver for the secondary suite surcharge was ostensibly because people would use more water. It's an uplift on the utility fee, I'll just remind us. It's not an administration fee, which, as you know, is asinine, because relatives don't use water? Of course they do. So as council knows, and I already alluded to, I'm going to be recommending in the distant future to do away with the surcharge and just distribute that revenue over everybody, because as we also know, there's only 12 acknowledged secondary suites in Lions Bay. Well, we all know that's not quite right. So
no, that's not quite right either. I believe it's something like 47, but not all of them have met the conditions necessary to be operating legally as a secondary suite.
I was taking the revenue, which I believe is $12,000.
Well, I think I've reported on this previously, that there's 47 on our list.
Yeah, I recall that number too, yeah.
But anyways, back to
Yeah, anyway, so,
back to what
let me just finish off my statement, my caveat. Even though I do have what is defined as a secondary suite in my residence, I believe I have no conflict of interest in this regard, because I have an interest in common with every secondary suite owner in Lions Bay. So I'm perfectly comfortable doing this. I do not declare a conflict, nor do I recuse myself. So now I will state that I don't know that council means that if you have a secondary suite, you are required to, if you rent it, it has to be long-term rental. I guess what I'm really saying is, and this should really be done in a committee of the whole, in a council strategy committee meeting rather than debated in full council, but I'm thinking that if not your secondary suite, what is it that you would short-term rent? A
I can
room?
answer
The
that.
whole house?
Hmm. Or a cottage, if you build one.
If you had a cottage in the future, which you've only just allowed?
So,
Are we willing to water down the bylaw by making it unworkable or unreasonable, considering it starts out as, the whole process started out as a in-law suite or a place for another family member to live, not necessarily a rental unit in the village. But a lot of them are like bed and breakfast and all that kind of stuff. That stuff is just Airbnb and all that kind of stuff is just really chewed the heck out of everything in every community, because there's no real bylaws, no real control, any of that kind of stuff. So we've got one thing here, we're talking about a secondary suite in a home that's been installed, been inspected according to the rules that are in the municipality. So are we trying to say that that's only going to be for long-term rental?
so the question is, you've got 47 acknowledged secondary suites. You've probably got 100 in reality.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Those are all people who rely on having a suite in which to live,
Yeah.
pay long-term rent. If you open
Those
the
are
suites,
occupied.
if you open suites up to being short-term rental, you will have happen, I guarantee it, you will have happen here what happens in every other community. Those secondary suites will be rented here and there, a night here, a night there, because the owners can make the same amount of money in a few days that they can make in a month.
So then we.
So it's an incentive for them to make money, but you are depleting your affordable housing stock. So you can do that if you want, but do it knowing it. You know, if you're going to make that decision, know what you're getting into,
That makes
because
sense, yeah.
that's what happened in Vancouver. That's what happens in Whistler. That's happening in every single community in BC, across Canada. It's everywhere. So that is why, for instance, Vancouver has said no. You cannot short-term rental a secondary suite. You can rent your house, but you can't rent your suite.
Or a room in your house?
Or you can rent a room in your house.
Or rooms.
And there's rooms. I don't know if they have restrictions on how many.
We do, I think, but 10 maximum people, right?
In any event, people, communities, municipalities, even regional districts are making rules around this so that they don't lose the affordable housing stock that they have in their community. And even if you don't have so many people taking advantage of a change in the rules that would allow them to short-term rental a secondary suite, that you still have, a good number of secondary suites, they're going to be more, you're basically pinching demand, or you're pinching supply, so that demand that already, where's that, the demand is going to get pushed up, and the price is going to get pushed up. So even those people who have the good fortune,
the long-term rental price.
the long-term rental price, and that we see happening all over the place. I mean,
there's no
young people
guarantee-
can't afford to live in Vancouver, North Vancouver.
And there's no guarantee what the next owner of the house will be.
It's cheaper for parents of kids these days to buy a condo and pay the mortgage because it's cheaper than rent. And it's cheaper than rent because of unrestricted short-term rentals. So that's, my recommendation is that you not allow short-term rentals in secondary suites. I think the mayor feels that there are reasons why you would want to allow it, and I think you need to debate that, and you need to
We'll
come
debate.
to a decision. Yeah.
If that in fact is the only issue, and I think you've made some very cogent and valid points. So, I just want to hear that council is okay with that, because that's kind
I
of...
think that, honestly, listening to what Peter's saying, okay, he's right. He does. He's polled other municipalities, see what's going on there. We see what's going on. We know what our goal was with secondary suites. It wasn't short term.
Yes, good point.
It was not short-term when we did that. It was meant to be, we're concerned about the fire department, we're concerned about places for our young firemen to come in and train and have a place to rent. That's not short-term. In-law suites, that's not short-term, okay? And so the issue I have is the people that do Airbnb. That's definitely short-term. If that's what we're gonna end up with, we don't wanna go anywhere near that.
Well, that's what this whole point is about. But yeah, let's not make a mistake here. I mean, the whole reason we started regulating secondary suites was because they existed. We were just trying to control safety.
No, we're trying to control liability. That's what we're trying to control
Yeah.
with secondary suites, because people were doing it. So if we've now got 47 of them, okay, or maybe more. The thing is, do we want them to be short-term rental? Personally, I don't think so. That's just me.
Yeah, so so if somebody comes to the village and says, "I've got a suite, I want an STR permit, a temporary use permit to put it on Airbnb," and we go and we say, "Whoops, sorry, this is not just a suite. This is actually defined as a secondary suite, 240 volt and cooking facilities. That's what defines it, and a separate entrance within the main dwelling. It's very
And a
defined."
parking spot.
And a parking spot. Yes, good point. Sorry, secondary suite, you can't short-term rental it. And by the way, we noticed that you haven't actually got it registered.
Yeah.
So we'll ding you for that now as well, because you filed a false return.
I think that if we have a policy that says they're not allowed, we're not going to get too many people knocking on
If
our
they read the
door
policy
saying-
carefully, yeah.
saying they
So that's
can't.
probably what's more like. So somebody says, "I got a secondary suite, but it says I can't." So I guess that's we're the politicians. We take the flak. What's going to happen when somebody says to me, "I got the secondary suite. It's sitting there doing nothing. I could rent it for 200 a night, but you won't let me."
No, we
What are we
won't.
gonna say to
That's
them?
a problem. It's long-term rentals only.
You're telling me what to do, Councillor Hughes.
Yes. That's what you elected me for.
Just how the laws are about.
Yeah. Well, no, it's like we do have to wear our heads on it and screw it onto our shoulders. So we are thinking about this process. That's why we're here. If that's not what we're doing, then we shouldn't be here.
Okay, well, this is the only, as I say, this is the only real little debating issue I could see around the provisions for temporary use permits. I liked everything else.
That's a quick fix.
So you're happy with that? What about you, Fred?
Well, I feel somewhat conflicted in it because, quite honestly, the less the less control, the better for me.
I thought you might say that.
Am I getting predictable? I really don't like government telling people how to live their lives and manage everything. However, there is a real need for order, and some people will push the boundaries no matter where you put them. When it comes to the issue specifically on this one, myself, on the positive side for renting a secondary suite, the homeowner is in the rest of the house, presumably, I would hope. And so the peace and quiet of the neighborhood would be more likely to be managed better. I like that. On the other hand, I am concerned about housing for our firefighters and anybody else who chooses to live in the village if we develop any more commercial. And I don't know how they can do it because I don't know if you've noticed the traffic, let's say on Second Narrows. You know, at rush hour, you've got hordes of people from out of the North Shore coming to work and serve on North Shore.
Yeah.
And then there's a horde of people going back, and the traffic is horrific. And it's because the prices are so high on the North Shore, they can't afford to live there anymore.
Yeah, the contracting. That's a known phenomenon that the North Shore mayors comment on all the time. North Van District and City, well, those two. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's a valid point. If I can summarize, I think, Jim, you certainly feel that secondary suites should be reserved for long-term rental,
I do.
or not at all.
Yeah.
Stay empty otherwise,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, I do.
fine. Would that be a fair summation of your desire as well, Fred?
Yeah, reluctantly, because I can't change human nature.
Yeah, well, I've been persuaded. I think that's correct. I think that is what we're trying to do here. So I'm fine with restricting secondary suites specifically to long-term rental only. So if we can move on to the few other points and I'm just looking through the marked up things here. Peter, just remind us, what's the nicety around restricting whether the short-term rental is close to a daycare or a school?
I think it's common in some communities to try to keep separation from commercial enterprises, whether they're hotels, B&Bs, tourist accommodation of various types, is to try to have some separation from schools, daycares, places where kids are, because you have transient
Transients,
people
yeah.
coming in and out of the community, and so I mean, you know, is there any magic to 50 meters or 100 meters?
No, they've got cars.
Probably not.
Yeah.
It's something that I put in because I've seen it in others, in other policies and bylaws. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's more the thought
I can
that counts.
read between the lines of what you said, and I agree with you. Okay, but you're talking about short-term stuff now.
Yeah. Only short-term.
Yeah. We're just talking
Yeah.
about short-term rentals. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. No,
Yeah, my concern
Totally
is, I mean,
agree
it
with
makes no difference. They can get in their car and go and kidnap a child just as easily as walk up to the thing 50 meters away. What happens if there's a short-term rental and a 3-year permit, and somebody wants to open a daycare within 50 meters or 100 meters? Do we tell
Wouldn't
the
that
daycare
be-
person, sorry?
Wouldn't that be a separate issue or concern? The daycare would become a community issue for a number of children that need to be looked after during a period
Yeah,
of
but
time.
somebody's going to want to do it in their home.
But
If they're
but
bad-
no, but they're not going to want to do it unless there's a need for it.
No, that's not my point. My point is, if somebody decides in their entrepreneurial spirit that they want to open a daycare in the house, and the house happens to be within 100 meters of a licensed short-term rental
They don't meet the
facility,
criteria.
well, no, the short-term rental doesn't.
Yeah,
we
so
kick
the
them
way
out?
that would work, I think, is that because we don't license or make the decision as to whether or not they can open a daycare under the
Yeah.
Family Community
Mhm.
whatever Act,
Yeah.
Assisted Care Act, whatever it is, that would be a provincial decision. So if they tick
Okay.
all the boxes for the province and the province says, yeah, go ahead, then they basically have vis-a-vis our bylaw, it would be a legal non-conforming use. So
Who would be the legal
So-
non-conforming use?
they would be a legal use, which is non-conforming to our bylaw.
The STR.
No, the daycare. So they would be a legal use, but they wouldn't conform to our bylaw. There would be nothing we could do, not that we would want to, but there would be nothing we could do to say, no, you can't operate that or you can't have that use.
Yeah.
When time comes for the TUP to be renewed, that would be council's decision or the delegated decision maker's decision to determine whether or not it ought to be renewed.
Yeah. So you complied before. We're very sorry. In the meantime, a daycare has moved in, and now you don't comply with
Yeah,
1C.
so if they were an impeccably run operation and there had been never a complaint over 3 years or something like that, council today could consider changing that provision of the bylaw.
Yeah, well, the problem is we don't know who their guests are going to be.
Because of
next.
policy, right? So,
Is this common in other STR policies?
it's common in terms of zoning,
Yeah.
in terms of the types of uses that you try to sort of have some separation
Yeah.
on.
Does
I
zoning
think-
bylaw speak to that? It doesn't, right? That was abrogated to the policy.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jim, you were going to say something?
No, I like where this is going. I think that we're on the right track. This discussion is great. I think it's all valid points. This has potential to be good, done properly. And I think we're touching on all the points.
Okay, I added the last one. Owners who do not have a valid TUP may be given a 1-week grace period to apply, but shall not market their property. Of course, they're marketing it now. That's how we know. So they're going to have to take it off the market or accept any new bookings unless and until their application has been approved. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I tweaked that a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I mean,
Very
here's the
carefully.
thing, you know, enforcement in this particular instance is actually pretty easy. Staff check 3-4 websites and type in the search term Lions Bay. Your job's done. And you check that they have TUPs, and if they don't, you give them a call. And the fees. What is it that provides for penalties and stuff? Is it the fees bylaw?
Yeah, we'll have to actually bring some amendments to the Bylaw Notice Enforcement Act bylaw, which sets out the penalties
To
in
accommodate
respect, well,
these.
because A, we need to update it with respect to the new zoning bylaw, because it still has the old zoning bylaw penalty provisions in it, and B, we'll need to address penalties for this kind of thing, so.
Okay, good. So this is the marked up, is the result, right? So-
The clean one?
Yeah, the clean one.
That should be, yeah,
So you
I'll
have-
double check that nothing's been missed, but.
Can I ask a question? Regarding 13, not 11, I could say it in the meeting today. Are you happy with the clarity in that? Like I was thinking, like this one, SDR applications for strata units must be supported by a resolution from the strata council. And I feel like I would like to add before the CAO will consider it for approval. Because it still sounds to me like we're forcing the strata council to support it.
But it's an SCR application to us.
The package has to be
It's just-
complete before they
It's
can
just one
submit
of
it.
the things that they need to bring and add to their application package to us. Because if they don't have this in their package, we're just gonna say, sorry, no, you have to go to your strata council and get a resolution saying that it's okay.
Well, I know, I agree,
Yeah.
but they're not gonna take this to the strata council and say, hey, look, you have to approve this because it's in the policy.
No, we're going to ask you to, and if the strata council says no, too bad. No TUP. Well, that's when they stop. They don't even make the application, presumably.
Okay. Well, if you're comfortable with it, that's fine.
Yeah, I thought
The
that was
strata
good.
council has a say in it, so that would
Yeah.
be.
In fact, we're looking
If
after
it's
their
not been
interest.
done, then it needs to be done.
I don't think there's any real serious ambiguity. I think I know where you're going with it, but and we could add words to clarify if that's desirable. We could say something like SCR applications for strata units must be supported by a resolution from the strata council.
I think that's good enough. Full stop.
Yeah, I mean, if the application is contested, you know, if we know right off the bat it's contested, it's not the CAO who's gonna consider it,
that's true.
it's council.
It
that's
comes
gonna
to council,
consider it.
yeah.
So, can't really say before the CAO consider it.
Okay.
Okay, on that one, Fred. Peter, on 14, you made a comment on the
Yeah,
last...
yeah, actually, maybe if we could just skip over that one, and if you wanna ask about that one and close, then we could do that.
Okay, fine. Okay, so we're not going to move to adopt this just yet.
Yeah, I was trying to get an answer, a definitive answer, and I don't have it yet.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, everybody
We
see
might
where we
wanna-
are there?
I might
Yeah.
wanna just push that over to, I might still get the answer before the meeting's over.
Okay, fine. So let's get a motion, unless there's any further discussion on this, on all points but that one, in 14, to not be ambiguous. Let's get a motion to table. Thanks, and a second. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay, so we'll reopen this in another meeting, closed or open as the case may be, and see where we go from there. Okay, good. Thank you. That was a good debate and good result, I think. And that takes care of 7C. So we'll move on to 7D. I'll just predicate this by saying I've had enough talking about this tree application. I will move outright staff's recommendation on that one and ask for a second. Thanks. Any debate?
Staff's recommendation was the 4-pack removed, is that correct?
Yeah. B.
Okay.
That's correct, Peter?
Sorry, hang on.
You'll notice that I actually stapled
Options.
that part of the package because I don't want to see it anymore. I stapled it close.
Good idea.
How much paper?
Yeah, I see. Sorry. I had mentioned at the beginning of the meeting that the agenda was missing D, but so is the first page of the report. It's only in the options on the second page.
The options, that's the one that I
we
looked
see
at,
D.
yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, the preferred option or recommended option from staff would be, yes, cut and remove all 4 trees.
That's B.
Require that appropriate hedge trees, i.e. bush trees that would provide a suitable screen and not grow beyond the height of the lowest hydro lines, be planted in place of the trees to be cut and removed. This will alleviate the potential for high-risk leaves growing up from top trees and requiring further applications by one or more of these neighbors in the near future.
Okay, good. So we'll take that as the motion, more or less as stated. That's a second. Any discussion on that one? There's 2 parts to this. So all in favour? Opposed? That carries. Then staff do ask for a consideration on whether council would consider fining the neighbour for cutting trees on municipal property without a permit or without insurance under various bylaws. We're talking about 4 trees at $4.75 each. Is that right, Peter? Was it 2 trees that were
It
cut?
was either 2 or 3.
Okay, so, some number more than 1 and less than $1 million. Okay.
Sorry, I don't have the amount.
That's fine. And staff also suggests a terse warning at this time. I drew a circle around the word terse and then I actually checked it. So, would somebody care to make a motion on that recommendation? Well, you have to say what you would move.
Yeah, I'm gonna open my mouth to speak on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the warning, and the reason I feel that is that in a previous one a few months ago, we were going through all these wranglings and everything, and one of the property owners involved decided to do some pre-topping and trimming, and we didn't find him. I'd be uncomfortable finding this party because of that, but I think we have to go on record that this will no longer be tolerated, and any future behavior like that will be fine.
Yeah, I agree. I think that council will henceforth be very, very circumspect about reviewing any, revisiting any recommendation from staff and the tree committee. As far as I'm concerned, we have absolutely no further information other than the experts on the ground to say what needs to be done. Why would we go back? Any representations made, yes, of course we'll listen to them, but it's very unlikely, unless new information is brought together, we're going to change the recommendation of the tree committee and staff. But in this particular case, since there was a slight precedent on not finding, I'm happy with a terse warning. Now, there has been a threat of legal action, but I think we absorb that threat and do it anyway. I mean, you saw Peter's response in the thread. I've stapled it close now, otherwise I can find it. So that will be the motion. Thank you, Fred. The motion is no fine and terse warning. Would you care to second that? Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favour? Opposed? That carries. Now, there was a second tree application. Is that coming later?
It's right on the back of that one. In the agenda.
Yeah, there's.
Yeah, it's 8D.
It's a new one. Okay, so
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
this was
It's after-
prior business or unfinished business. That's how it came about. Okay, good. We move on to reports. The first is the staff report on the notices of interest in Lions Bay, page 65. Essentially, the report comprises the report that caused me to ask the question in the first time. That's not what I was looking for. I was looking for subsequent work. I could read the report that we received, obviously, from the MLA, from MLA PIM.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if you had actually noted that or not, because this seems pretty clear that there's nothing on that map in Lions Bay.
So how do we determine which is it? Is it the orange?
Yeah.
on the map? Okay.
Well, I can't tell at the resolution of this map. I see some orange under the E of the word hectares, which is more or less where Lions Bay is, and there may be some orange there. I can't tell. You can?
No, well, I looked at this blown up on the screen and it didn't look like there was any orange. Did you see any orange?
There was nothing close by. The closest was in Squamish.
So then, could I ask the question then, seeing as there's no notice of interest in any of our property here, if we hold a meeting here, do we still have to recite the thing about we're on unceded territory if we were in nature?
Good question.
I think that's something completely separate and apart from this. This is just a procedural step that is taken by some First Nations, and I think it relates as well to the status of their if they're where they are along the process in terms of the treaty negotiations. Sometimes that has, this step is taken in terms of some of those proceedings, but it's a formal step wherein they're making sure that no land use decisions are taken with respect to areas in which they have a particular notice of interest. It doesn't mean that they have no interest whatsoever, or that it's not something that is within their territorial historical claim, or their lands that they've historically utilized. It's just it's a procedural thing more than anything. So I don't think it really changes whether or not we're within their historical territorial lands or not. It's just we're not within not within any lands that have a notice of interest.
The reason I asked in the first place was I was advised by a former mayor that the gravel pit was subject to something. I never quite got the full word on what that was, and both beaches. Is this a database or is it a what?
I don't know. We didn't delve that far into it.
Yeah. I'm none the wiser than I was when I saw the report that asked me to ask the question in the first place. So the recommendation is that the report be received. So I'll ask if somebody would care to move that and second it. So that we have a motion and a second, Jim?
No, second.
Okay, so I've spoken against it. I'll be voting against the receipt, but if you guys are satisfied that we've got enough to go on, you should vote to receive.
Well, if I can I interject? I'm curious of what your argument is on it, why you would vote against it.
Well, as I say, I was advised, and take it for what it's worth, that the gravel pit and the beaches had some status, some First Nation status. That's what that means. I have no idea. But I was advised when I did a tour of the former mayor up at the gravel pit, lots of hand waving and where things could go. If the stars and the moon aligned, but it was all subject to some sort of First Nations issue.
And any disposition of Crown lands is subject to First Nations.
Anyway, yes,
claims.
I know. So I don't even know if this is worth the paper it's written on. I just don't know.
Yeah.
That's why I asked.
In terms of procedure, my suggestion would be that you receive it because technically you've received it.
It is a
You've
report.
got it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you don't really
It's-
usually disavow
The
receiving
issue is whether we
something,
assign any
but-
value to it, and the reality is we've received it.
Fair
We've got
enough.
it, we've looked at it, we've received it. We don't know how to read it or understand it, but we're receiving it.
Whether or
In
not-
good faith, which was given to us.
So whether or not you want to seek
Yeah.
further clarification,
Yeah,
or if
okay,
you
that's
want
right.
staff
Okay,
to
fine, I'll do
write
that.
a letter to the Ministry of Aboriginal Affairs to inquire as to whether or not there's any notice of interest in Lions
Within
Bay,
X
then-
kilometers of Lions Bay. Yeah.
then
Because don't
perhaps
forget
we
we have
could do
we have
that.
aspirations to potentially absorb some Crown lands.
That would be the way to deal with it. If we were concerned, that would be the best way to deal with it.
Okay, I'm happy with that. I'll make that motion. Can we have, so this is a motion within a motion. This is a second motion, secondary motion. Can I have a second on that? Thanks. Any discussion on the secondary motion, which is to request staff to contact the ministry and find out if there are any NOIs on within 10 kilometers of Lions Bay? No discussion. Call the question. All in favour? Opposed? That carries. And now the main motion, receipt of the report. It's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Opposed? That carries. Okay, good, thanks Peter. And there's no mayor's report, no council reports, none on table neither, so we'll move to committee report, tree application number 79 of 305. Ocean View Road, page 67. I stapled this one closed too. The recommendation from the tree committee is that tree application number 79, I don't know if it's actually being approved, but the action to be taken on was that the tree be removed and associated debris be removed. The application, I note, was for topping.
Yep.
So it's actually not what the application requested, but staff, I saw in the package before I stapled it closed, suggested instead that the tree should be removed. So that's the staff and committee recommendation. I will move that recommendation. Can I have a second? Any further discussion?
Well, just the comment I would say is it's a lone tree and it's looks like a stable bank and everything, so I think removal isn't a problem. I support staff. And
I'll be guided by the committee and staff. As I say, I really want to. Council really has no business other than ratifying this because it's required of us. I have no ability to opine differently than people who know what they're talking about, or at least seen the thing. So we have a second motion on the table. Any further discussion?
No.
Call the question. All in favour? Opposed? That carries. Okay, we're moving ahead to resolutions. There being none, we'll move to bylaws. Now, unfortunately, I have quite a lot. And because staff are asking for 3 readings, we're going to have to go through them. Unless, Peter, you want me to just pass you my notes and do only 2 readings.
The reason that we're doing 3 is so that we can try to accommodate the request of the events committee to trial a food truck.
I know.
So what have you got?
Can we not separate that out? Okay. Well, let me just run through what I have, and maybe if council was amenable, we can make those amendments and then approve the 3 readings as amended. So.
Do you not have tabs?
No. Oh, this one was very simple. So this one will be easy, actually. It's the other one that I had big comments on. The traffic and parking, I think. No, the council procedure. This one was only the one that you wanted to rescind the 3rd reading on, and that was to do with this adding the term "and designated W2" under zoning and development bylaw. I felt that excessively restricted the definition of park. I thought that the definition of park we had in there before was fine. So just give us why we need to put that in there.
So without restricting the definition as recommended, you're calling all of the waters 1,000 feet out off Lions Bay's coastline park. So what kind of park is it? Is it attached to any of the other parks? No. Is it a marine park? If it is, then we're beyond our jurisdiction.
Can we charge for moors there?
Don't go there.
I think that we're just, yes, the
I
original,
removed that. I moved that remark be ignored.
Yeah.
the original park bylaw has what it has. It's a very, very wide definition of park. I think that trying to actually enforce that in that, as written, I would be concerned and about actually.
Fair enough. I got it now.
now.
I now understand. I would then just suggest that we change the word "and" to "that is." That is designated W2.
Let me just see how that reads.
And then, because of now my new understanding of what it is that you were trying to accomplish there, which is correct, then I think we also need to say "and including the forest that is so designated as park inside the village
Sorry,
boundary."
just a sec.
if we change it to "is," it may sound like we're saying Her Majesty the Queen is designated.
I think it's fine with "and." So it's land that it's land that's covered by water, granted to the village by the Queen, and designated as da 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 da. It has to be designated as well in order to qualify.
The Queen designated it, or we designated it? I'm jesting, of course. I still prefer the word that is. So this forest, is this park? This is.
Yeah.
But what's this? And this? I'm pointing at the map for the tape. Randomly.
Isn't that resource use under the new
The
bylaw?
zone does that. But
that's
this
not-
definition encompasses it.
It's not park or parkland.
Well, that's
It might be used for
For the same reason.
pleasure and recreation, but it's not park unless it's within a park.
Okay, so it's not the forest inside the village boundary.
I don't think so.
Okay, so that's what this definition says.
Including sorry, I was looking at the beginning of the definition. You're talking about the very last sentence,
Yeah.
of the last phrase. Including the forests.
I would just suggest we do forest designated as park. In whatever that is, zoning or
Resource use?
use or whatever it is, yeah.
But does that affect the zoning bylaw we just passed?
No.
You know, I just, to be honest, I don't know that we can.
Is that not
we
too
have the jurisdiction to designate Crown lands as
park?
park.
Yeah, exactly. So therefore it can only be the stuff that's already been so designated and belongs to the municipality. Forest, yes, but designated as park. Forest, yes, this, not park.
Yeah.
I mean, you already said it's too general as it is and we can't defend it, so let's not get too general.
I guess the question is whether or not there are restrictions within this bylaw which presently apply to those lands.
Like
that
making fires and
you
all that
don't
stuff.
want to necessarily.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I think just leave it for now. That's a different. You know, next time we come back to this one, let's.
Fair enough. Forest is not
No.
defined either, purposely, I guess. Including the forest. What's a forest? Lots of trees, medium amount of trees, big trees, small trees. Okay, so this definition is not there yet, but I understand the time issue here, so I'm prepared to let it slide for now.
We do have a severability clause, so you know if forest inside the village boundary was
So we
was held
challenge
to
that.
be too vague as to be enforceable, then it would be stricken, presumably, and we'd still be left with the part that matters to us.
Okay, so how we need to do this procedurally is I'll need a motion to rescind third reading on the Parks Regulation Amendment Bylaw number 448 of 2012. That's the amendment bylaw? It's 2012?
No.
Number 527.
And then, have I got this right? So
No.
we-
No, in the
which one is the one that we're looking for a rescinding?
So the name of the bylaw is Lions Bay Parks Regulation Amendment Bylaw number 448 2012, Amendment Bylaw number 527. It's just an oddity that for some reason when they created 448 they stuck the word amendment in there because it changed some things that were in the previous parks bylaw. So that it is a bit confusing in that sense, but I can't, you know.
Well, let's do it. Seeing as we're fixing it now, let's change that as well. Change the name of it. Can we not?
You can if you want.
Yeah, why not? Okay, so I'll need a motion and second for rescinding third reading. Thanks, and a second. So we'll take a vote on that one. All in favour? Opposed? That carried. Okay, so now this bylaw has only got 2 readings. Now, I will move the amendment bylaw number. Sorry, what is it again, Peter? 527.
527.
Thank you. And add and move a second amendment, live and in person, to strike the word amendment from the name of the original bylaw, but not of the amendment bylaw. Can I have a second on that one? You like that idea?
I like that idea. That's good.
Got to get.
Too much double talk.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we can get rid of the word bylaw as well, because sometimes you seem to say that a lot. Okay, so those 2 amendments. Do we have yes, we have a motion on that now.
Yeah.
Thank you. And a second. Any further discussion? All in favour then? And opposed? That carries. Still wanted, yeah, okay. No, I'm not gonna quibble. Okay. Next is the traffic and parking bylaw number 413 and sundry amendments, starting on page 93. Yeah, so I did have quite a few on this. What's the timing requirement on this one, Peter?
Same thing in terms of food truck.
Yeah. How have we managed to do it before?
Didn't
It's
know
not
you-
commercial.
Didn't know that you'd ever done a food truck in the park, have you? Or on the highway? Have you done one before?
Not that I recall, but that doesn't mean we haven't done one. We can't just temporarily waive the requirements,
You can't waive a bylaw,
even a provision of the bylaw.
not really. Not supposed to.
No, let's do it how we're supposed to. I'm just asking.
Well, you'd have to redo the bylaw.
Well, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
But rush, 3 readings, we've
So-
just seen it,
No.
blah, blah, blah.
Well,
You can't, you may not be able to rush it. That's
what are
I'm saying.
the,
Okay, well, they're not that many. So, begging council's forbearance and forgiveness, starting on page 101 of the package, under 6. Oh, I'll just point out that one of the few additional powers the mayor of the municipality has is to place a traffic control device for 48 hours. And speaking as the mayor, I'm going to take advantage of that power.
Are you actually gonna place it?
Yeah, I'm allowed. Well, but I was really actually, when I pointed that out, I just wanted to check. Does that then supersede bargaining unit collective agreement requirements? In other words, is it allowed?
I don't know. Probably have to ask our legal advisors, and perhaps before legal, ask Metro what their thoughts are on it.
In the meantime, I'd like to retain that power, please. Just for a little while. It's going to be fun.
Well,
So that would actually answer one of the questions.
Staff's recommendation with respect to that would be that you restrain yourself so as not to create issues unnecessarily.
Well, I want to know if it's an issue.
We'll look into it and then
so
let
look
you
into
know.
But that does answer a question that arose in a comment on parking plan memorandum, was how is the event parking signage going to be placed?
Mm-hmm.
The answer is by the mayor.
It's
Under
interesting.
6. Because the event signage is usually put out on the weekends, obviously.
We could get the mayor a Segway and let him go do all that stuff.
Yeah, does it?
I don't know that,
Can I pull up signage I don't like?
I think that, the notion of a council being able to write bylaws
Yeah.
that just to get around collective agreements, I don't see that.
I don't see that
going on
happening
too
myself,
Yeah.
but I want to know if this is feasible because
And we are in negotiations, so
yeah.
not advisable to stir that pot right now.
I'm not stirring any pot. I just pointed out because I don't think anybody else noticed it.
No, I'd never noticed it either. That's quite interesting.
Okay, so the issue that I really have there is to say that I believe we need to add or volunteers after employees.
Yeah, I can't recommend that council make that amendment at this time without checking on legal ramifications of making an amendment like that.
I'm not comfortable with it.
So when the events committee puts signage up for special parking for all candidates meeting, they're actually breaking the bylaw because they're not allowed right now. They're volunteers. And you're telling us that the bylaw has to be correct in order to allow a food truck. I'm talking about something that happens all the time. Who's this guy stealing our chairs, by the way? Or moving our chairs back and forth? Do you know about it?
No, that's not mine.
wasn't me.
There's a guy walking up. I mean, he must have gone up and down for the last 45 minutes carrying chairs.
Can't you?
Don't know.
I don't know.
Nothing.
It would be a Fran season question.
Mhm.
Tell them use the chairs or
I imagine
borrowing
he has
them
a
or
key.
putting them back or whatever.
But
Maybe
they seem to
rent-
go in both directions. That's what I want to know about.
Well, must have had a key though.
maybe he's cleaning them, maintaining them, bringing them back. No?
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
I think that you know, signage rules and regulations with respect to matters related to an election, or perhaps a different
Okay, bad
ball of
example.
wax,
Anything
Um,
else?
you know.
Signage saying this is one of the houses on the Arts and Garden tour.
It's not municipal signage. It's not
Traffic
bargaining
control.
work.
It's no parking in
It's
front of
not-
this house. It happened 2 weeks ago. All over the place. 8 houses had all kinds of traffic control devices which are defined. A sign, signal, line, meter, marking space, barrier or device which is consistent with the MVA and placed or erected by or under the authority of the village. Okay, well maybe we get around it that. It's not erected by the authority. That might be the get out on the mayor as well. It's a nicety, but it's a nicety. Okay, I'll let you think about that one. In the definition, I'm looking now at page 102 under 10a. Standing and stopping are defined as the same thing. Can we get, it says stand or stop means, and then it says what it means. Can we not, is it standing and stopping is the term? Or can we just say standing? Or stopping, I don't care which.
Yeah, I don't care for the term stop or stopping a vehicle. If it's intended to mean, standing a vehicle. Yeah, I think it's an old-fashioned term.
Yeah, of course it's old-fashioned.
But you know,
It-
without going through the bylaw to find all the places where that term is used and then deleting them, Johnny on the spot right now.
I found
I
them
mean,
all.
is it necessary?
Well, we're talking about changing the bylaw. So you tell me if it's
Okay,
necessary.
well, we could make a council could make an amendment that the word standing, as used to mean stopping, as defined in the bylaw, that everywhere the word stand is used in that sense, it's to be removed.
Yeah. A stand is specifically for horse-drawn vehicles, for obvious reasons, and yes, it's very old-fashioned. Sometimes it says standing and stopping, sometimes it says stopping and standing, so it's all over the place, but that's what search is for in Word, so I'm pretty sure we'll find it very quickly. So I would suggest that amendment, but let's just do them all in one shot. Under 10J, you're not allowed to stand, stop, or park a vehicle as defined with all of its tires on any roadway. That happens all the time. It happens out here for any village event. On the roadway. Now, whether it's over the fog line or not, I don't know, but I believe roadway is defined as that portion of the highway that is improved and ordinarily used for the passage of vehicular traffic. So is roadway on this side or that side of a fog line now?
It's on the driven side of the fog line.
So on the other side of the fog line doesn't count. So
Well, it's not defined in terms of fog line in this bylaw. Fog line doesn't appear in this bylaw, so I don't think you can necessarily say it's one side or the other of the fog line.
it does say ordinarily used for the passage of traffic. So, I mean, I suppose people do occasionally drive on the other side of the fog line, but it's not ordinary.
Hmm.
The point is, there's multiple places where people park all 4 tires on the roadway,
Mhm.
up and down Bayview, just for one example, but I can think of Timber Top, Highview, Isleview. There's no fog lines there.
Sunset Trailhead parking area.
Well, there may have been fog lights at one time, but they're certainly not there
Yeah.
now.
Well, but Sunset, is that not designated
Calling
parking?
gets rid of them.
So I don't know what we do about that, but that's not being adhered to now. We could just strike it and allow it.
The intent of the provision is likely that vehicles be pulled over off the roadway, off the traveled portion of the roadway as much as possible.
Yeah.
But as a hard and fast rule, it presents issues and difficulties in certain areas of the village, no doubt about
Well,
it.
I mean, this is the bylaw that our bylaw enforcement officer is primarily enforcing.
Right, and it becomes very difficult for those people when you have provisions
Yeah,
with hard and fast rules
soft
that don't
provision.
necessarily make sense.
So I'll just point that one out for now. You can mull that over.
Well, I think the council needs to mull it over, and
Okay, well, we'll all
as
mull
opposed
it
to
over.
me.
Then. I think there's just a typo there under 11.3.1, top of page 103. The word "and" I think is just wrong. If council approves a written application, such approval shall be valid for no longer than 3 years. And just doesn't scan.
So are you saying that the "and" right before the "such"?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And then, yeah, the only other one I had on this one is the other one that's you're not going to like me very much on. Provision 19 on page 104.
Sorry, just one sec.
Is not noise making also under the good neighbor bylaw? And does this jive with it, or should it be left for that, or should it be left for here?
Well, this is specifically noise making for commercial purposes, for advertising or other commercial purposes.
Well, I'm pretty sure, as I say, that wording is almost verbatim from the good neighbor bylaw as well. In fact, it may be in there too, but not exactly verbatim, which I don't need to tell you is a problem.
So the problem with this one that I thought of was, what if you got like an ice cream truck?
Well, that's the first thing I thought of.
That's me.
For example.
You know, would it have to be a community event for the ice cream truck to come to Lions Bay? He's probably not going to come unless it's an event. There's
I
enough
would
people,
add that
but
some people are annoyed by ice cream trucks.
yes,
Yeah.
that
So it
that's
works both ways.
I won't say I'm one of them, because that would not be
uh,
expedient. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to look up what's in the good neighbor bylaw. The only question is it not more appropriately part of the good neighbor bylaw? Especially since you correctly pointed out, it's going to be a little difficult
I
to come
don't
by.
have the good neighbor bylaw in front of me, so I don't know whether
As we
it's.
speak.
And you know, I think there's probably several instances where, you know, it's nice from a law enforcement perspective to have more than one avenue upon which to attempt to enforce something. So, you know, the fact that it's in two bylaws is probably a good thing, not a bad thing.
Yeah, I just don't want people playing them off against each other.
Well, one's not going to override the other, I don't think, unless they're completely diametrically opposed.
Well, you're the bylaw guy, so I'll take your word for it.
Well, I don't know what it says.
Well, he's hunting down that. Can I ask about 20? But no person shall drive a vehicle over an unprotected hose in Lions Bay Fire Rescue when the hose is laid down on a highway or private driveway, and it's got had a fire or an alarm of fire. Can that last bit be just deleted? Is it necessary? So I'm thinking if they were practicing and they had the fire alarm or fire hose laid out, you still don't want them driving over it. 'Cause they're
Right.
doing it. So everything after driveway, I would suggest be removed.
Yeah. Any thoughts?
Yeah, make it more general is fine by me.
I don't see an issue with taking that out.
Yeah, interestingly enough, unless I'm missing it in a quick scan through, there's no real provision against noise in the Good Neighbor bylaw. Good Neighbor is really about rubbish and outdoor light.
So it's probably in the noise bylaw.
Oh, shit, I didn't even think about the noise bylaw. We have a noise bylaw.
Yeah. From way back.
Okay, well, that's a whole nother thing, and I could see the fate of the noise bylaw might be short-lived. I'm just pointing out.
The good neighbor bylaw is just that. It's about how to be a good neighbor. It doesn't necessarily control other things. So it's among the residents themselves.
It's intended to stop nuisances.
Nuisance. It's
a nuisance bylaw.
Yeah.
It's really a nuisance bylaw, and that's what it should be called, actually. We had that discussion around the Policy and Bylaw Review Committee, if you remember, back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I'm not too concerned about the noise one in that case, because if you tell me that it's fine to have it in multiple places, that's good enough for me. Okay, so then I think if we can agree on removing the word stand and all instances thereof in favor of stop, then the only question is, what do we want, and plus removing that extraneous word and in 11.3.1. What do you want to do about parking all tires on the roadway?
I think in our area, having 2 tires off the road is more of a nuisance because it ruins the runoff ditch and everything else like that, and also cause the collapse of the edge of the road just down from us. But I don't know if we can make too much of a deal on that because it's right in a whole no parking area. So
Well, so there's down Lions Bay Avenue, past the resident parking only, there's beautiful grass verges that I would never park on. You know, opposite Dr. Bell's and, you know, all down there. When I take my kid to go and play tennis at Dr. Bell's, I park all 4 wheels on the tar because I'd ruin his lawn otherwise. So this is a Lions Bay thing, you know. Yeah, I'm sure in Surrey you don't want that to happen, but what do we want to have it in Lions Bay?
especially because we're on the side of a hill, it's very difficult to find parking anyhow. I mean, you can't just drive off at some flat ground.
Don't get me started.
It seems that the harder we try, the more difficult we make it to park.
Don't say
We've already
that.
got difficult, we've got lots and lots of difficult parking areas. And some areas where it's just almost impossible to park. So why are we trying to make it harder?
Well, I think that, yeah, if I'm hearing what you say, is let's just get rid of that provision.
That's it.
Because it's honoured more in the breach than the observance, and so what's the point of having it in the first place? What do you say to that, experts?
Delete it.
I would agree
Yeah,
with that.
it eases the
Yeah.
bylaw enforcement officer's life as well, because you don't
Yeah,
have to worry about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so delete that one. So with those amendments,
Sorry, you missed one. Councillor Bain, I think, had paragraph 20 there to
Yeah.
delete
The fire
the
code.
words "add a fire" or "alarm a fire" after the word "driveway."
Yeah, just get rid of that last piece.
yeah, I mean, I could actually see get rid of everything after the first comma.
Yeah, that's right.
Why not?
Then why not? That's exactly right. Just very
Well,
simple.
What if we've got West Van responding to assist us, and it's their house?
Well, they're deep-pocketed, so we can find them.
Well, actually, this one's covered off in the Motor Vehicle Act. You get 3 points for running over a fire hose of
Yeah,
any sort.
exactly. And that's a very good point.
That's even better. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. It is.
But do
covered
we
up.
not have to have it in our bylaw so that our BEO can enforce it? We're not going to call Squamish RCMP down here to enforce the Motor Vehicle Act. Or can we enforce the Motor Vehicle Act? No? Yeah.
What about just saying an unprotected fire hose when the hose is laid down on a highway or private driveway?
I think that's probably good enough.
Yeah, where else is somebody going to drive, I suppose?
Well,
That's right. Yeah.
what if they drive over the boulevard?
Yep.
This will allow it. I wasn't on the highway. I drove around.
I hope I never have to give you a ticket, buddy.
Yeah.
Name your provision. I'll pay the ticket.
So you want to kill everything after Lions Bay Fire Rescue
yeah,
and
yeah.
add fire
I think so.
before the word
Yeah.
hose, so it's fire hose, not just the garden hose, because they probably
Yeah.
got garden hoses too.
Well, they have different lines, right? They do have rubberized lines. They have canvas lines, but you're the guy. You don't want anybody
Says
driving over any.
driving over fire hose prohibited.
I would say an unprotected hose belonging to Lions Bay Fire Rescue. I don't want to restrict it.
You never know, maybe some firefighters wear hose.
Well, this protects them as well.
God, that wait for something like that to come out.
Write that down. That's a good one.
Okay, what's the final version?
I say remove everything after the word rescue.
Do we insert the word fire before hose
No.
or not?
No, I don't suggest so. This makes it even more general. And we protect firefighters' legs.
Yeah.
Double benefit. Okay, so with those amendments, I had no further. You'll be very pleased to hear. So I believe, do we have a motion on this one? No, we don't. So I'll ask for a motion in a second. Thanks. Any further discussion?
Oh, I don't know if this matters on page 96. It's down at the bottom of the thing, certified 2 copy of Lions Bay House Regulation Amendment bylaw. Is that a typo
Sorry, page.
or am I reading it wrong? I think it was just down the bottom of that page.
Yeah, you got it. It is a cut and paste issue.
Mm.
Okay, so that's another one. Well caught, Fred. That has to be just fixed. Let's just consider that a typo, right, Peter?
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, we might as well just take it out.
Well, you still need the certified a true copy thing.
No, I mean, change it to the
Change it,
proper.
yeah. So it's just a typo, though. It's no real debate. Okay. Okay, so we have a second motion. Any further discussion? Ready for the question? Yeah, all in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay, and I should have prefaced all of the proceedings here tonight saying it's going to be a long one. Because now we move on to council procedures bylaw. First, second, and third reading of a slew of amendments. Peter, I did write down, in fact, let's do this right. I'll take a motion if somebody's prepared to move the amendments. That's a move. You're looking at me like I'm crazy.
No?
You're prepared to second?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Now we'll discuss.
I'm just looking at you with my glasses, that's all. I do that all the time.
So I had my prime question is why now?
Why now? Because summer is upon us, and the key motivator for doing this why now is adding that you can attend a council meeting electronically if it's a regular meeting. Before it was only a special meeting that you could do that. So
Yeah, that's right. And if we don't do all three readings today, we can't adopt next meeting, which means it won't be done. No, it will still be done. You can still do it in mid-July.
you'll be away.
I'll be away, but everybody else will be here.
Well, that's the problem, is that maybe they wouldn't be, and maybe we would need you to call in.
From France.
Oh,
It's
well,
gonna- it's
yeah,
gonna be a
for
challenge.
us. Okay.
Skype,
Well.
that will work. I can even do it video. I can sit there.
Okay, so.
So we
it-
would prefer to. The reason I'm asking is because I have a shed load. I say that. Maybe I don't. Maybe it's the other one. Yeah, I marked it up. It's not terrible. We can run through them if you like, because then it's done. What's council preference? If we only do 2 readings now, I'd be happy just to give Peter my notes, and then he can bring it to council for a 3rd reading next meeting, the first meeting in July, and then adoption can take place the second meeting in July. I won't be here, but the rest of you will, right? You'll be here the mid-July meeting. Ron will be. We're off in August, of course.
The only potential glitch in that is, what if I don't agree with all your notes? You might want
That never happens.
You might want to run through them.
Let's just do it. Let's just do
Blast
it.
through it.
Let's just blast through it.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Do we want to take a little break? It's 10 to 9.
That's fine.
Fine? Okay. Let's go. Okay. Feel free to interrupt and tell me to drop things. But this is an important one. You'll remember that we changed this. It was, I think, the first bylaw we changed. Mandy brought it. For this was council's first piece of work. I certainly didn't know what was going on. Did you include the suggestions that I made about 9 months ago for changes to the procedures bylaw?
Which
By
ones
email.
were they?
Hmm?
Which ones were they?
I can't remember.
I've tried to keep a marked up version of anything that's come up along the way since I've been here, but I can't guarantee that I got everything from
Right, it was one
the
email.
bylaw.
I'm not sure that I'd ever be able to find it again, but it was about 10 things. Okay, whether or not that's the case, we will never know. But I think many of them will come up again because they're probably the same things that I knew about. Okay, so the first thing is the title. Is it not as amended? Council Procedures Bylaw?
Because it hasn't been amended yet.
No, but will it not be?
That's just if you're citing it in some other instance.
Okay, in a consolidation or something.
No, it's let's say in another bylaw, you're citing this bylaw,
Mhm.
you would say this bylaw as amended.
Okay, but it's not
Once
its name.
Once it's been amended.
Yeah, okay, but it's not its name.
No, and
Okay.
it's not part of the citation.
Okay, fine.
But you say it because, unlike provincial and federal legislation, which when amended is automatically as amended, provincial or municipal legislation, you have to actually say as amended, or you're not technically referring to the bylaw as amended. It's just a little stupid little technical
Everybody
thing.
get that?
Pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Okay.
They should just amend the act so that we don't have to do that.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, that is going to be something I will be doing next week, is to change the community charter to a community charter light. That's going to be my project next week. And then get it through the new government. Okay, so on page 126 of the package, Council Strategy Committee means a committee of the whole council. Of the whole council.
Well, it's a committee of the whole is understood to be of the whole council.
Well, the formal term is of the whole council and it's capitalized. So
Sure.
let's just do that. Not that committee of the whole council is defined, but it certainly is committee of the whole council.
I've never seen that. I've always seen committee of the whole. I've never seen
whole
committee
what?
of the whole council.
The whole world? The
Don't
whole
ask me. It's
universe?
just the name of the committee.
Okay, well, we don't call it that for that exact reason, but
Okay.
and it's not capitalized whole. It's a single. It's whatever it is.
Mhm. So capitalize the whole. And,
No, not capitalize the whole of the whole council. Or you could also say a committee of all council members.
Sure.
Which section are you
I
on?
like that.
Committee of
Definitions.
Actually, that would be a more clear
the- Yep,
definition.
let's go with that.
Yeah, that's
Committee
fine.
of
That
all
makes sense.
council members.
Okay, good. Over to the next page, the village definition. Please remind me, did we say that all definitions of village will mean the municipality of the village of Lions Bay? Henceforth? Or did we decide against that? I can't remember.
I have simply made an effort myself to, whenever I'm drafting a new bylaw, to use or an agreement or an RFP or anything, to try and use municipality to mean the corporate body.
Yeah.
This is using village as the corporate body.
The corporate body, not the village itself.
That's your issue here. Is
Yeah,
what
so I'm
you
asking-
take it to mean. I mean,
Well, here
in a procedures bylaw, it's going to mean the corporate body.
okay, then it should say municipality of the village of Lions Bay.
So you want to strike village and say
No, insert the words municipality of in front of village. or municipality of the. Why? Because if we have a bylaw that says you shall not make fires in the village, what is that?
It's
In the municipal
in
offices?
the community.
Okay, well that's
It's
not
not,
what this.
in a corporate body. You
Okay,
can't
so
make a
this-
fire in a corporate body.
This is the corporate body. Therefore, it must say the municipality of the village of Lions Bay. Okay, moving on. I'm going to move through these fast. Slow me down if you want to talk about it. Under 7, same page, we actually define the word inaugural council meeting. We should use that word rather than first. Not so.
Yeah.
And is it in fact the first Tuesday?
Why,
It is for you guys because you got Tuesdays, first Tuesday of each month.
No, I mean November. Sorry, I meant November.
It's November.
The next
now.
the next provincial local election will be the 20-something of October.
That's right.
So this will be the next council meeting after that. So that will work. Okay, fine. Okay. On page 129 of the package, under
excuse me, can we go back to that for a second?
yeah, go ahead.
So, why do we want to be that specific? Why don't we just refer to
Inaugural
the
meeting.
first Tuesday after the general election?
That would be better.
Because it wouldn't be, because that would be the fourth Tuesday of October, which you don't normally meet at.
Yeah, because the meetings are first and third.
Okay, but
You previously had it in December, the first Tuesday in December.
all I'm
it's
saying
doing
is-
is moving back a month.
all I'm saying is that when you get specific to the month itself, like instead of using general language about the election, you're specific to it has to be in November.
Yeah, you're right. Because if that ever changes in the future,
If
then
it
we
changes in
have
the
to change
future,
the
I'll
bylaw
change
again.
this again.
But you
So
can't,
let's just say
it wouldn't be the first Tuesday after the election, though.
the first.
It'd be the first Tuesday of the month following the election.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
If you want to say
Yeah,
that.
but all I'm saying,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just saying, I'm
Avoid-
trying to get.
if the
I'm
government
trying to get-
changes it back
Yeah,
on
I'm
us.
trying to get less specific about the month, that's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah,
Don't
no, that's
mention
right.
November.
So just say the month following the first. Oh, whatever it is.
Tuesday and
Okay. In many places, the indenting of the subs is all over the place, but I assume that will get fixed. For example, in 8, 3 and 4 are on a different row than 1 and 2. Same for 9, and same for 10. My question is about 10 specifically. So can we just say fix the indentation so that it's a little more easy to read?
But isn't that something you do in the final version?
That's not an amendment. This is just the.
Yeah,
It's just
that's
a
fine.
It's
draft.
just a consolidation.
Yeah.
Fine. I'll just point that out for now. Under 10.4, does that adhere to the community charter?
Yep.
You're happy with that?
Yep.
Fine.
That's why I put it there.
Okay. Under 11, next page, I believe what we call 2 there should actually be C, 1C.
It wasn't previously.
Yeah, that doesn't mean nothing.
Well, you can do the same thing with 3 as well, and
Yeah,
same
and
with
I actually started.
make it all. But
Yeah, actually, that's right, it should be C.
I think.
I would actually then say maybe they should all just be under 1.
Well, I'd rather just leave it the way it is, because it's preceded by provided the conditions set out in the community charter are met.
2 things.
That doesn't apply to number 5, for instance.
Yeah,
So
I know.
let's just leave it the way it is, and
Fine, I'm fine with that. You may, and that you can do without any sort of council resolution as well, right? Or can you not? Because headings are for convenience only.
you're still accepting the changes that are
Okay.
here.
Oh, the changes, yes,
Not-
but
not
no,
the
I'm talking about the
whole-
hierarchy.
I would say accept the hierarchy too.
Okay, fine. Okay, so under 11.5, do we want to say any number of staff consultants and other invited persons, or is that general enough as it is?
Staff and consultants would be, by this wording, invited persons, because it's as well as other invited persons, so they're now,
No, I'm saying, should we say
Yes.
any number of in front of it?
Pretty clear.
why any number of?
Because we're restricting numbers in all the other clauses.
Do we have to even make that statement?
No, I'm asking.
I don't think so.
Okay, fair enough. Under 13 on the next page, I believe that December must now change to the inaugural meeting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good catch.
Each councillor designated, this is the next section 14, under 13, must fulfill the responsibilities of the mayor in his or her absence. Actually, in the mayor's absence, not in the councillor's absence, and has the same powers and duty as the mayor in relation to the applicable matter. Do we want to speak to a change in remuneration when that happens? Why do I ask that? A lot of other communities use the sanction of removing somebody from the deputy mayor roster because they won't get the extra money. And now we don't do that. I can see that it would be, I can actually see if the mayor's not there for the period that he's out of the chair or available to sit in the chair, he, in this case being me, he should swap compensation with the deputy mayor.
Such a large amount of money.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's
Seems more hassle than it's.
it is probably
Yeah,
more hassle.
probably
The
not
reason
worth
is
trouble.
that in big places they use that as a threat, as one of the sanctions.
We're not a big place.
Yeah, fair
We
enough.
are more personable than that.
Very good. I'm liking that. Okay, and then 15 I've written down here is a repeat of 19.2b. And is that a problem?
18.
In other words, can we get rid of section 15?
And
Or is it different?
19 refers to time period of 15
Yeah.
minutes.
I mean, it's a subtle simplification, I know, but
And it's really kind of talking about the deputy mayor, or the acting mayor, sorry.
Yeah, 19.2b to me means if the mayor is
Late.
as opposed to absent.
Yeah.
well, that's sort of the same thing if you want to get fancy about it. But yeah, okay. Leave it. Again, there's lots of tabbing issues. And then I think 19.3, is that section 13 or is that section 19?
Yeah, that sounds better. Right?
It should be 13. That's who we're talking about.
Okay. After the commencement of a council meeting, but before 15 minutes is up. But that's taken care of by the introduction. That's taken care of by 2, so that's fine. Okay.
With respect to 18.5, we actually had a discussion at staff meeting with respect to adding here, we've got committee meetings shall not be recorded.
Mm-hmm.
The discussion revolved around CSC meetings, which are recorded, is that right, John? Yeah.
CSCO committee meetings.
And they're posted. Board of Variance meetings are recorded for the assistance of the recording secretary only and are not posted.
Mhm.
and this is, shall be audio recorded and posted to the municipal website as an audio file. So I think that the recording secretary making use of a recording device or her cell phone or whatever to help her with the minutes is not necessary to put in here, but CSC meetings, so I should probably say committee meetings other than CSC meetings shall not be.
Yeah, I would like to go a little more, even more explicit, and this is an important issue because you remember we had a question, why was there not an audio of a public information meeting or a public hearing?
Mm-hmm.
So I would actually like to see this, okay, that's a good catch. I'd like to see something like saying, council meetings, CSC meetings, Board of Variance meetings, and any others, actually recordings of those shall be posted to the municipal website as an audio file.
Well, just council meetings and CSC meetings.
What about Board of Variance?
No.
No? Okay. So it's only council and CSC?
Yeah,
Not strategy meetings?
that's
The
the council
CSC.
strategy committee.
That's, of course, that's a strategy committee. Yeah. Okay. Recordings of council meetings and CSCs shall be posted to the municipal website as an audio file.
Mhm.
No other meetings, recordings, something like, no recordings of other meetings shall be made public.
That's fair.
So that allows the recorder to make a personal copy, but it's not public.
Mhm.
Okay?
I like that. I like that wording, that is.
We did discuss if you do record a meeting for a minute taking,
Mm-hmm.
that becomes FYable.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure, I think I like this wording because this might actually provide an out
Okay.
under the FOI Act, but I'm not sure. I
Well,
mean,
do you want to say something
may or
about
may
destroying
not.
the recording? Or do you not want to never
well,
acknowledge the
that's- that-
recordings
that-
made?
That would be a procedural matter.
Yeah.
You know, if the intent is to assist the recorder, presumably that's
That's
going to get
administrative,
recorded
yeah, yeah.
over anyways,
Yeah.
or deleted or whatever.
Yeah.
I think the point I was trying to make is that if it's in here that there's a chance that those meetings will be recorded, then you could get an FOI ask
Mhm.
for it.
But if it's clear that the intent is for the assistance of the recording secretary, then the fact that it's been deleted or recorded over is not any indication of nefarious activity or subterfuge or trying to stymie someone's FOI request. It's just,
But
sorry,
the
that's
purpose
just
of
the
recording
way it
a
is.
meeting
It's,
is not necessarily to hide it. It's to record it for content and make it easier to develop minutes
For
and
certain
stuff like
meetings.
that.
But this
So-
kind of meeting, that's so people can check that they agree with the minutes.
Okay, but this meeting is a public meeting anyways. So
The meetings are great. Over.
it's not over.
So the thing is that there's no issue. Like it's either flippable or it's not flippable. If it's in the public domain, it's flippable anyways, no matter what. So the idea of putting the meeting up on the website.
I think that's right. I think we have to.
Right, I think we got to be.
If a recording
be smart
exists
about
and
this.
we delete it after we've done with it administratively, so what this bylaw says is there's no recording made, but that's not strictly true. What we're saying is no recording of anything other than council meeting and CSC will be made public. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
But if we make it available, like I said, it's flippable anyways, no matter what. It's in the public domain.
If it's public, it doesn't need to be FOIP,
But
it's there.
I can think of incidents we've had where people have come into council meetings and recorded because they were afraid they weren't going to get the information.
Ah,
And I'm seeing that this is one way to put a stop to that.
well, that's
And-
actually another interesting point.
Yeah.
What about non-official recordings?
It's an open meeting, and
Yeah, people are
you
free
can
to
you
record.
can actually pass a bylaw saying no video recordings, and you can pass it. And because I know that you can pass a bylaw saying no video recordings, if you can do that, then I can only presume that you could also pass a bylaw saying no audio recordings.
I think the first is a
permitted.
privacy issue. People don't necessarily want their faces on the web, but well, be that as it may, do we want to say anything about the official recording is the official recording.
We're saying in this section that council and CSC meetings are going to be recorded and they're going to be posted to the website, right?
That's it.
And that's it.
And
Yeah.
so that's, you know, they don't have to
That's-
FOI
that's-
anything. It's
that's
there
very
for,
clear-
it's there for them to look
That's
at.
very clearly diligence on
Yeah.
the part of council.
So what I've got for new
Yeah.
wording to go after
I like
that is recordings of other meetings shall not be made public and are strictly for the assistance of the recording secretary.
I think that's a perfect intent.
And are subject to deletion.
I think that's right.
I don't think we need to
At
say that.
administrative convenience.
I like that.
Okay, I'm fine with that. That's
Yeah, that's good. That's a step in the
okay.
right
Let's move on. Everybody good with that?
Yes.
You're interjecting when we're crossing. So I'm heading to 22 next. Anything in the meantime? Anything between there and there? So there, under section 3, the wording is a little clunky around the delivery of agendas for the closed meeting. Of course, we're saying here is that you get the agenda for a meeting at least 24 hours, and that's notice of motion stuff and everything, which is part of Robert's rules. But what it says there with the added red thing is, except you don't get an agenda for a closed meeting, so it has to be fixed.
So misplaced modifier, and we can just put it at the very beginning of the sentence.
Okay.
So
So read it-
except with respect to any part of the meeting that's closed to the public, comma, the corporate officer must make da-da-da-da-da.
So what does that mean
No,
exactly?
it's not quite. The council members must get the closed agenda.
Except with respect to the council must enable to be.
22. You could just
I
say
guess insert it after public then.
So how is that being done? Does that mean it's being posted?
not
Unless you want to
closed.
say
No.
except.
No, not closed. I'm talking about officer must make agenda available to the council members and the public at least 24 hours
Yeah.
before a regular council meeting.
It's been posted.
So that's being... that
Usually
means
gets posted on the
it's
Friday.
on the website.
And in the post office and on the official notice book.
Okay. that's fine.
And I think that's stipulated. No, I'm more worried about the other one. Maybe we can just say, except any part of the meeting is closed to the public, in which case the agenda shall be provided to council members only. I mean, it might be, that's a little clunky, but it's probably good enough.
Sorry, say it again.
So the red part
Mm-hmm.
added,
First?
huh?
Are you saying put it first?
No. Except with respect to any part of the meeting that is closed to the public, comma, in which case the agenda shall only be provided to council members. Yeah, it's a little clunky, but it's probably close enough.
Okay.
Okay, so now then I had a more general question. Let me just insert it here now because I see I wrote down here. I have to work out why. Can we not dispense with a whole lot of this procedural stuff by saying Robert's rules and procedures will apply?
No, you really only want that to apply where you haven't provided for, you know, that's the fallback. Everybody does that.
Yeah, but why not have that as our prime guide?
Because it is it's this thick and has a lot of stuff in it that really pertains to other types of meetings. Stratas use it. Any kind of
It also
body
leaves things,
can use it.
brings
So
things into being open to interpretation.
there's all kinds of things in
Robert's
it.
rules are interpreted all sorts of ways.
Yeah, but also there's provisions in it that are different than what's in the community
Yeah,
charter.
That's right.
So
Okay.
we don't want to do that.
No.
It's
Okay.
just where there's a gap, then you can look to Robert's rules for guidance, and which we have in here somewhere.
Fine. Okay, so we do mention Robert's in here somewhere, I think.
I think it was near the beginning
Okay.
or the end. I'm not sure.
So now, where do we speak about in the agenda section notice of motion? I seem to remember, maybe it's a Roberts thing,
I think
that,
it's separate.
so,
Motions generally, section 32, and motions for the main question, section 33. That's where motions are.
A motion that deals with a matter that is not on the agenda of the council meeting at which the motion is introduced may be introduced with council's permission. Okay, fine. So that's notice of motion. Does that mean unanimous or a majority vote of council?
So where are you now?
32-2. This came up in the early days, and a council member was ambushed by a motion that appeared on table at the last minute.
So just like we do at the beginning of, and somewhere in here as well, is that council needs to, at the beginning of the meeting, if you're going to add things to the agenda, that's where the time and place to do it, because then, as a council, you're passing a
Approving the
resolution
agenda, yeah.
to approve the agenda.
Adopting the agenda, approving the agenda. Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. So what if, so the motion is going to come on table, nobody knows what it's about yet. It's a motion of censure against a member of council. He's going to vote against it. But the majority of council does vote for it, 3 out of 5 or 3 out of 4. Does it go forward or does it have to be unanimous? Because, you know, we sort of add stuff to the agenda administratively without anything. It does come to approval, but that's a majority. So I just want to know. It would seem to me that given the lack of notice, or 24 hours notice, it should be unanimously approved.
Yeah, you could add unanimity to 32-2 as a
Well,
requirement.
Yeah, so we use this term permission of council in here quite a lot. That's not defined, I take it.
No, it should
Okay.
really be maybe introduced. With a unanimous affirmative vote of council.
Okay, do that then. If you guys are up for that. I mean, it never happens, but I've seen it at Metro. All hell breaks loose. There's 7 motions on the main motion. It just goes on and on. How they keep track of it, I don't know, but they do.
Keep in mind, we're a small council.
Yeah, but when it comes, when we start talking about land disposition and zoning disputes, it's going to happen. Guaranteed.
Again,
There's gonna be lawyers.
Keep in mind, we're a small council, and we are fairly practical about things like that, but that's fine.
Yeah, there's going to be 4 lawyers sitting there. We've got to have it right. Yeah, I mean, I take your point.
So what were we adding to that sentence?
So what gets added is cross out the last 2 words, council's permission, and instead have it read introduced with a unanimous affirmative vote of council.
Okay, sorry, just go back to where we were, because I got that came up as a result of another discussion. So back to section 23 on page 133. This is where we get to decide, is it approval of the agenda or adoption of the agenda? And
Changed it pursuant to the discussion that we had.
Yeah. So,
Where you brought forward this change.
no,
So-
I've always wanted adoption of the agenda. We're going to adopt this agenda and start speaking to it.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at receipt and approval of minutes is the one that.
Yeah, yeah, and that I'm happy with. So do we want to approve the agenda or do we want to adopt the agenda?
I've always seen approval, but okay, I
Metro,
don't-
for
I don't-
example, I don't know about the other municipalities, but certainly the regional district says adopt. I just want to be consistent. I think the concept is we're looking at this proposed agenda, we like it, we adopt it, and now let's talk about it. But
Okay.
approval's the same thing.
if you want to change it, I'm fine with that.
Okay, fine. And do we need to say as amended?
More modern language, that's all it is.
Yeah, I guess so. Or adoption implies as amended.
Adoption of agenda,
If it
you
wasn't.
would still, I think you would
Yeah.
still say
That's right.
as amended as opposed to as circulated, so that it's clear that
Yeah.
it's changed from what
Okay,
the
so
public saw on the website.
very good. So adoption of the agenda as amended.
Well, you don't put that here though.
Do you not? That's what I'm asking.
No, because it might not be amended. Might be the agenda that
is.
you put out on the website and whatnot on the Thursday or Friday.
It
the
doesn't get
week
amended?
Before.
That's never happened. But okay, fair enough. I don't care
It
about
has actually.
that. Yeah, maybe. What does this say? On-table items are to be minimized, but if vital, shall be distributed at agenda adoption.
That's not in there.
It is. It's written here. Well, that will be up to council to adopt that in the agenda, so we
Somebody
don't
had
need
it the way
to,
it would be.
we don't need to do that. Just one thing missing after closed council meeting, when applicable, is reporting out before adjournment.
Yeah.
Voting at the meetings. My understanding of the right way to do this is to ask for a motion and a second before debate starts. Here, we don't even speak to motions and seconds. Now, I've seen this happen on YouTube, mind you, in places like Texas, where the chair will move a motion and ask for a second and doesn't get one.
Mm-hmm.
And then he sits there and he says, I'm looking for a second. And he sits there and looks for a second. He adjourns the meeting and waits for another day. So what do we want to say about moving and seconding?
I like
I
that.
know that he can adjourn the meeting.
I can't remember.
That's not
I
so
think
bad.
I can't remember what happened, to be honest. I think I made that one up. But do we want to say
So basic rules of procedure. You move it, and then once it's seconded, then it belongs to the table. It belongs to council,
on the floor,
to the
or
body.
I never quite understood the difference between the floor and the table, but okay, yeah.
So until that happens, if you don't have a second, then yeah, that motion goes nowhere. It just
It
dies.
dies on the table.
Yeah, but should you be debating it before it's seconded? In other words,
Some-
do we
yeah,
want to
you
put that
know-
in here?
You know, I've seen it both ways too. I mean, oftentimes, especially if it's a matter where somebody is going to suggest that some changes be made to a recommendation, they don't necessarily want to move it because they're just going to have to go through the whole amending of that motion and then the main motion as amended and then da-da-da-da.
So
So
debate first.
sometimes they'll debate first just to have the preliminary conversation and then flesh it out. So
I'm fine with that.
I think
that-
it's fine either way.
Yeah, okay.
It's whatever works for the body.
And I did want to, I was going to ask you a few pages, can we actually stipulate in here that where feasible, proceedings will be kept informal, but we'll get to that. Okay, so under 25.1, are not A and B the same thing? When debate is closed, when council is ready to vote, the chair must put the matter to a vote, the chair must put the matter to a vote. And I don't like the term when council is ready to vote because we stipulate in here that when things get contentious you can speak twice and all that stuff. So I think it has to be when debate on a matter is closed. In other words, I think just get rid of B.
No, because
I mean,
any council member could move a motion that the question, they could move the question at any time.
yeah, shout by shouting question.
Yeah. Or they can call for the question.
Okay,
Make a motion to call for the question.
fine.
So, yeah, I would leave it
Just
alone.
leave it like it is.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay, good. Okay, moving on. Question about it. Okay, so under 32C on page 137, the chair must reserve the decision until the next council meeting. What decision?
Sorry, 30.
37.
2C.
Oh.
Chair is required to say.
Oh, it's decision on a point of order.
Mm-hmm.
But then that conflicts with a later thing that says you may not re-debate a past motion. You can't just keep bringing it up again. But okay, I'll leave that. Shall okay, leave that. Under 31, section 10, A2, I think that one needs to be unanimous permission of council too. Or is that the majority permission? That's speaking more than twice. Now here we're not even keeping track because it's fairly consensual council, but that's not always the case.
Yeah, I think, where it's not an issue, this is fine. Where you have issues, then sometimes you want to say things like with a 2/3 majority or 2/3 affirmative vote of council, in order to allow people to keep going. But
Okay, so we don't need to, if we don't say unanimous, it's a standard council vote. Yeah, okay.
yeah, it's just majority or
Fine.
your basic options are majority, 2/3, or unanimous.
Yeah, yeah. And 2/3 is very hard to achieve in a 5-person council. Okay, let's move on. So leave that as it is. Thank you. 32, section 32, number 3, that needs to now become adopt. To adopt the minutes.
No, we just changed it to approve.
No, we changed it to adopt. It's
It's
approved of the minutes.
No. 23D, we changed from adoption of minutes to receipt and approval of minutes.
Minutes, yes. This is agenda. Oh, that's minutes. I beg your pardon.
Okay.
I read that as agenda. Sorry. And I was thinking, why would you want to be able to preemptively adopt the agenda because you're really in the meeting? Okay. How is it that this massive red section came about? Was that moving something from somewhere else, or?
So basically what this is about is where you have any delegation of decision-making authority, you must, and an enactment, any enactment, provides the person affected by that decision a right of appeal, or it's called reconsideration. It's different than council's normal reconsideration, but that's why it's in this provision. It's in this section, anyways. You must, by bylaw, provide a procedure for them to have a reconsideration of that delegated decision-making authority. So when I was at the SLRD, this was thoroughly researched and vetted by council, and we don't have anything meeting that requirement, so this is the best place to put it. Otherwise, if you have different bylaws with delegated decision-making authority, you've got to redo that every time. So this is the most convenient place to
That's
put
great.
it.
So then should the title, is it fine like it is, or should it say, as a result of a public?
No, I think it should be as it is.
So this would apply to reconsideration between council members as well.
No, the provisions for reconsideration between council members is...
So I was looking for that, I couldn't find it.
Sorry, let's see. Sorry, yeah, this whole thing shouldn't be read. Actually, no, I think I did, just because I didn't like the way it was written. It was lacking. Sorry, it was lacking quite a bit in terms of
Cogency?
yeah.
That's fine.
It wasn't well written, so I did rewrite the whole thing. So the first the subsections up to
Well, it looks like 7. There was 7 before. But there's only 5 now, so that's not going to work.
yeah, just sorry, one second here.
I'm prepared to let it slide, Peter. If you did it, I'm happy with it. I think. I'm speaking for myself only.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. The only issue I would have is there a distinction between reconsideration by council and reconsideration as a result of a request from a member of the public. But you're telling me no, so that's fine by me.
Yeah, it's just the first 4 are replacing what was previously in the bylaw, and then 5 is for the purposes of a reconsideration of a delegated decision.
Fine, okay. So that's all cool. Almost there. Under 37, public questions and comments. Is this not the second set of public questions and comments? Or is it for both?
Questions and comments.
Because this says have already been subject to discussion at the council meeting. Obviously that's not the case for the first set of public questions. Yet we call out in the appropriate section that there's 2 public comment periods. One is public participation, it's called. And this one is public questions and comments. That is the name of the second section. But do we not require public participation? Council shall hold a 10-minute public participation period until speakers are concluded. Shall I address the... okay, so is this our intent now, Peter? So in the first public participation piece, that's at the beginning of the agenda, they can speak to anything.
Yeah.
Because previously, I'll just remind council that delegations were wrongly restricted to speaking to stuff on the agenda, which means that nobody could bring anything new to council. So that's been fixed, simply by striking that out. But so the first public participation is on anything. And the second public participation is on the agenda.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
fine.
right.
Okay, good. That's good. Okay, fine. And then I think it's no, it's not quite the final one, sorry. 41. A proposed bylaw may be introduced only if a copy of it has been delivered 24 hours before the council meeting, so that that has happened in this case, or if all council meetings unanimously agree to waive this requirement. Do we want to insist on a separate debate on each one, or can we just say by adopting its debate in the agenda? Or by just simply by adopting the agenda? Otherwise, we're going to forget, and we're going to break our own bylaw. And there have been any number of bylaws introduced for 3 readings on table.
So you're saying add to the end of this, just say by adoption of the agenda.
Yeah.
Unanimously agree to waive this requirement.
Maybe say including by adoption of its debate in the agenda. Because somebody may want to... No, you can always then say no. This requires unanimous, and the adoption of the agenda is not unanimous, so that may not work.
But you could say including by way of unanimous adoption of the agenda.
Of it in the agenda. Because if there's something else in the agenda that some people want to talk about and others don't, that's not going to work either. This is good stuff. Come on.
In some people's minds, it's good stuff.
Gotta get this right. I've seen the alternative. I've seen hell break loose. It's not pleasant.
No, this is stuff that needs to be done. I agree with that.
You don't need it until you need it, just like insurance policy.
Okay.
Okay, almost there, I promise. Section 51. We no longer call it the municipal hall, do we? Can we not just say council chambers?
Municipal Hall, council chambers.
I think just say council chambers. Because you remember, if we move the meeting off-site, we have to actually resolve that. But
That's true.
Yeah, but same thing if you strike municipal hall.
No, I know, but it's no longer called Municipal Hall. What's the Municipal Hall?
Well,
Is
this whole building is Municipal Hall.
it? Okay, fair enough.
That's Broughton Hall, but this part I would still call
This is still Municipal Hall,
Village Hall or Village Office, Municipal Hall. I don't know.
but it's the council chambers in the village office.
We can call it City Hall,
Yeah.
but
Okay, I'm fine. I don't care. So now onto the committees thing. All meetings, standing committees established by the mayor and select other committees established by the council. The applicable rules of procedure as set out in this bylaw shall apply. Plus the rules of the community charter, I would have thought. And the very reason I'm asking this, let me ask the rest of the question, is we currently have a committee of council, it was approved by a prior council, to adjudicate the Curly Stewart Award. It's a 3-member council. Its members are not really publicly known. Why? Because it's a small community and you don't really want to know who's choosing whether your kid gets a scholarship or not. It's a committee of council, approved, appointed. How does that fit in here?
was it by resolution?
I guess so. It wasn't this council, but it's a long-standing committee.
I've never seen a bylaw creating it, so
Apparently it's a panel. It actually says in the rules and regulations of the Curly Stewart, whatever it is, scholarship award, it says there's an award committee. Now, my understanding is the word committee is reserved in the community charter, but maybe not.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know either.
There's different kinds of committees. So.
Well, the community charter says standing and select. That's it. Those are the only two available.
No, you can have a committee that's an advisory committee created by bylaw. We have one.
Oh, yeah.
It's called our Tree Views and Landscapes.
And there's no requirement to have a council member on that. Not necessarily.
The terms of reference establish who's
Okay,
going to
fine.
sit on it.
Okay, good.
Lots of advisory committees don't have any council member because the idea is to have unfettered
Yeah.
discussion amongst members of the community who don't want to feel constrained by
Okay,
a council
good.
member.
So this will accommodate that simply by saying.
Well, let's see. Well, for standing and select committees, an elected official as the chair of the committee is something that I'm recommending. For other committees, it could be someone other than an elected official.
Sorry, say that again.
So under C, there's a stipulation here that didn't previously exist, and that is that for a standing or a select committee, an elected official must be the chair.
Okay, so we don't have that today with the tree committee.
They're not a standing or select committee.
I think
They're
they're
committee
it's a
created by
bylaw.
bylaw. Yeah.
Okay. What's the reason for that?
But the reason for that is because from a staff perspective, it's sometimes noticeable when people who aren't elected officials and used to the procedures and the way to do things and dealing with agendas and so forth have to try and do that. It creates a lot of issues. So, I mean, actually, it would be great if the tree bylaw committee was also under this, but I'm resigned to deal with
Well, we may be able to
Anyway,
fix that
that-
at some point, but
it wants to go.
what about the Board of Variance? That's a committee by bylaw,
Yeah, it's a statutory.
statutory, so
Committee.
that's fine with that. Okay, my only question here is, do we want to stipulate in the committee terms of reference do we want to say within this bylaw, whether amongst all the other terms of reference that the committee that is set up for the committee by council,
Sometimes you wanna just kind of provide some general guidance to a committee and let them establish their own terms
rest,
of
yeah.
reference. Sometimes you wanna lay down what are the terms of reference. So
Yeah.
this is intended to provide some leeway in that respect.
yeah, I get that. My question is, do we want to insist that they stipulate whether the decision is by consensus or by vote
You could stipulate that.
within the
if you
terms of
want.
reference? The reason is because I think we'll forget, not we, the future council. So, for example, infrastructure committee is stipulated in its terms of reference to be by consensus. the tree committee is stipulated to be by vote, I believe. Or maybe it's not stipulated, I don't know.
I don't remember.
So do we want to say that here to make sure that future councils get that part?
You could add under A, you could just add,
Including amongst others, including but not limited to.
including that all committees. All committees? What about CSC?
Well,
CSC, you
we
might
do
have
make
to vote.
decisions.
Well, you don't make decisions, you make recommendations.
Yeah, we do pass motions.
Pass motions making recommendations to a different body.
Yeah, so we don't make resolutions, but we do pass motions. And that's
Well, you make
majority.
resolutions. When those motions are carried, they're resolutions. But the
Okay.
resolutions of a committee,
Whatever.
which are recommendations
But that's
to
by
council.
That's by vote count, not by consensus.
Right. So you wouldn't just want to say all committees shall be by consensus vote, or vote shall be by consensus. Recommendations, I don't know, I think leave it alone.
Leave it alone. Fine.
And we can address it in the purposes for which the committee is established, if you don't specifically set out the terms of reference themselves.
Fair enough. Last point. Resignation.
I refuse. Just kidding.
Good one. CAO motor joke. That's not a common occurrence. CAO is not being willing to be misunderstood. No, members of council or committee. Do we need to say anything about that in terms of duties, in terms of
Sorry,
effective? No, there's nothing there.
Oh,
Do we want a section on resignation? Or is that covered?
on resigning from council, you mean?
Or a committee, yeah.
Resignation from council is covered by the community charter
Yeah, I would think so.
and the Local Government Act.
What about committees? What about firing? What if somebody doesn't want to be fired from the infrastructure committee? What do they do? Decisions are by consensus, so all they need is their vote to say no, and then
So which might point to consensus not being a great way to do things.
it works when it works. But yeah,
Yeah, when it doesn't work. So
the members,
if
even
somebody-
on a consensus committee, the members are appointed by council. They can always unappoint them.
But that's something that should be covered off by the terms of reference for the committee.
so
Every time.
So it would depend on how the committee is appointed. So
Yeah.
if the mayor appoints the committee because it's a standing committee, or if council appoints the committee because it's select, then mayor and or council can decide, say so and so is removed from the committee, or so and
For those
so
two
is
kinds.
so and so is appointed to replace Jack Black, who resigned.
What if somebody wants to resign and the mayor doesn't want them to resign, or council doesn't want them to resign?
I don't think that I think, in a community like this, I don't think that's a wise thing to put in anything.
And if it's a committee created by bylaw, then you'd have to do a bylaw amendment.
That's right.
Potentially, if you want to expand the numbers or retract the numbers, but if it's just in case somebody resigning, you're just gonna appoint a new person.
I think we should leave that one alone.
Okay, so no need for a resignation clause.
I don't think so.
Okay. Although this is the first time we ever thought about it, and we're now going to do 3 readings, that is all I got. And I thank you for your patience, forbearance, kindness, all those things.
We'll get that.
All right. Okay, so it was so long ago, I don't actually know if we have a motion and second on that one, so I'll ask for one. It can be double motion and second if necessary. And I'll call the question. All in favor, and what we're voting on here is 3 readings of the Council Procedure Bylaw, Amendment Bylaw as amended, right? As amended by discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, of course we can change it
3 readings
in the resulting 3rd reading.
as amended.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, who needs a vote? I mean a break. No?
Too far to go.
Shauna? You okay? You want to make some tea?
I'm good.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to Development Applications Procedure Bylaw number 431 of 2011, the amendment bylaw thereto and thereof number 531 of 2017, first, second, and third, page 151.
Is this going to be the same length of discussion?
What if I said yes?
I'm asking a question. I haven't determined what my thought would be after that. Clock
It's
ticks
going to
on.
be a lot shorter.
The clock
I
is
have no
ticking.
comments.
It's almost 10 o'clock.
I have no comments. Because why? Because Peter, just remind us of the reason for these changes. It was
there
housekeeping.
Yeah, it's housekeeping.
That's why I didn't want to
Just
change
wanted to bring things into line with the new zoning bylaw and getting
Yeah.
ready for procedures to.
Yeah, that's why I didn't have any comments. It's just housekeeping. Although you'll want to change the date of the office consolidation, obviously, but you'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll ask for a motion. First, second, and third on the bylaw as stipulated. Second, thanks. Any discussion? This being your last chance. All in favour? Opposed? That carries. Okay. The fees bylaw is the discussion on that was added, but it will be take place after the closed meeting. And we will now do correspondence. Peter, you look like you're hesitating.
Nope.
You good?
Yes.
Okay, correspondence starts on page 167. I'll just whip through this quickly because I read all of it. Unfortunately, I couldn't make the gig at the fish lab, but I sent an RSVP saying I couldn't make it. The World Ocean Day and Rivers to Ocean Week, I'd suggest no action, unless anybody particular. The only action might be that to change their font so we can read it.
Yeah, I couldn't read that.
Oh, exactly. So moving on to the
already
sex
had
crimes thing.
We already had ours in Gabriel on the 11th.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, this was, the feds funded the fish lab to some huge amount. They're going to make it the best fish lab in the Western Hemisphere. But she gave us 2 days notice that the reception was on, and
Yeah.
by that time I was engaged. I probably should ask one of you guys if you want. Okay, so no action on the
I could have gone there.
thing. On the letter from what's her name?
Kathy Peters.
Kathy Peters.
Thank you. No action. Everybody going to? We're doing this on the nod, and we'll take a resolution at the end to receive an action. The memo from UBCM. Yes, the UBCM memo. We're not going to add anything to the UBCM agenda, so no action. The oil sands just receive.
So I don't know if I'm looking at the same agenda as you guys.
181 I'm on.
Did you pass the LNLG?
180 and 181.
Where's that, Shauna?
G4,
Yeah, what about the Prime Minister's
page
stuff?
12 of the correspondence.
This page.
It's at the bottom, the red page numbers.
My page 12 is a letter from Jamie.
Yeah,
Who's-
LNLGA.
LGA.
Yeah, no, I said no adds to the agenda and no action.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you do the Prime Minister one?
Where's that?
Page 6 at the bottom?
There's also no action.
Okay.
Prime Minister, page 6.
Prime Minister to fight sex crimes and trafficking?
Oh yeah, no, nothing. That was just the beginning. It went on for a few more pages.
That was all part of Kathy Peters.
Yeah.
It's all
yeah.
part-
No
part-
action on
yeah,
that.
that's right.
No action on the Peter McCartney's letter from Wilderness Committee. Interesting, but nothing we can do about it. Okay, now moving on to resident. Ray Kisser provided some input on the zoning bylaw. It was sub judice while it was between the public hearing and the adoption, but it's now been adopted and we can now receive public input. Of course, the bylaw exists, but we're still talking about the policy. And so what I'd suggest is we just request staff to include this in deliberation of the policy when it comes. Yeah, I mean, he makes some good points. I don't know. So we have already asked for some further input. For example, asking for some comparisons from other communities on these kinds of things. That Ray seems to think that 33% is a crazy community amenity contribution for the uplift on a subdivision. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. But I'm glad he wrote. So we'll just receive that one. And there you saw a letter about the parking situation at Brunswick. I responded.
Already built.
And I suggest no further action. So I'll take a motion to receive and a second. Any further discuss? All in favour? Opposed? And that carries. Now comes the one that's not going to be fun for me. This is the on-table report on metered parking. It looks like this.
It's this one here.
We've read it. We received this yesterday, I think. Is that right? Or this morning? Yesterday.
Well, it's very similar to this thing that came on my email today. It is titled Mayor's Parking Signage Proposals, and this one's Parking Meter Proposals, but they start off identically.
Well, that one was is not on the agenda.
That
The one on your left hand. There was just a report from staff by email. This one is, though, it's a request for decision between two pay parking meter vendors' proposals. As I say, I'm sure we've read them all to the extent that we got it. Peter, is there anything you want to speak to on this one?
So this actually, yeah, okay. So this version, there are various places in this version where there are square brackets that say a percentage or a dollar figure or C closed. So the report also exists in the closed agenda with those percentages and those figures. They're redacted here essentially to comply with Section 21 of the Freedom of Information Protection and Privacy Act. So if there are any questions about the hard numbers and comparisons of costs and revenues and things like that, then we should have that discussion in closed to protect the interests of the two proponents that are the finalists here. With
Their
respect
proposals
to-
were confidential.
Oh yeah, with respect to things like unit costs and the way they price
Yeah,
things,
yeah, that's
and that's generally you keep those things off the table. Total cost and so forth can be revealed and open once you've just made a decision. So basically, we've got we've put on an RFP and that's attached, and that was to see if there were any companies that were interested in providing pay parking services on a free trial basis over the summer. So we could see how that worked, what that looked like, test it out, see what. Sorry, Jude. I'm stretching out here, but and so we did receive back 5 proposals from different companies. And they're all quite different, and some of them didn't even have meters because they didn't feel that Lions Bay, I think, the cost of providing meters wasn't gonna be covered by the revenue, is basically what it came down to. With one of them, it's just they don't do meters at all. They'll partner with a metering company, but they just do basically parking stall sensors is all they do, and then there's data that's collected from that. So it's actually quite intriguing, but they have a completely different model where, you know, you can rent out the parking space on your driveway if you wanted to with this company. Anyways, narrowed it down to the two that are before you in this report, which is Easy Park and Precise Park Link. Easy Park has been around for a while. They used to be called Downtown Parking Corporation, DPC, and they've evolved over the years, changed their name I think in the early 2000s. They provide the pay by phone if you want to do that methodology to pay for your parking, which is quite popular. They also have their own app for parking, and they just launched a new one in conjunction with UBC. So their costs, so those costs are generally passed on to the customer. A lot of the other ones you pay 35 cents per transaction to use your credit card using one of the apps, or just simply paying by phone using your credit card. So they do have some lower pricing in that respect, but that's neither here nor there for us. It's the customer who pays. They do have high-tech meters, basically little mini computers, but they would install two. They wouldn't install one at Sunset Trailhead. Thought that it would be sufficient to have pay by phone at that location. I did note that the cell reception there was a bit spotty. I could only get 1 bar on my cell phone when I tested out, as opposed to 2 bars at the other lots. Although it varied between 1 and 2 bars depending on where you were in the other lots. That meter for Easy Park would utilize pay by license plate, and it would provide, they have software that comes with it, and so bylaw enforcement officers would utilize an interface, dashboard interface on their cell phones, in order to understand and know when somebody was overdue, instead of just wandering around aimlessly and so forth. You do get some of that, I think, as well with the other providers. Telepark is the name of their pay-by-phone option. Anyways, there's for both of these, the costs for the trial period are very minimal, and less than $2,000 basically, and but it's sort of year 2 that I'm looking ahead to, and what kind of revenues would we get vis-a-vis the expenses that we'd be looking at paying in year 2 and beyond if we were to say, hey, this works, and keep going with it. I foresee only a 4-month period each year where we would have metered parking in effect, or pay parking in effect, basically mid-May to mid-September. So the Easy Park did provide revenue projections. I found them to be very, very high, and in my opinion, not too realistic. I did my own sort of assessment, and came up with some numbers that actually corresponded with numbers, the revenue projection that Impark provided for us, which was $13,100 for all 3 locations. And also one of the other providers who wasn't a finalist had basically structured their proposal in such a way that it was clear that they weren't confident that we'd make more than $10,000. So basically there was no revenue share until at that point they wanted to cover all their costs. So from that, my projections are lower, and those are provided in the closed materials. Did I? I don't think I did, because I was concerned. I was concerned about providing those numbers here, because the deductions and the cushion that I talk about. Basically, you know, what it came down to for me was, while the Easy Park option might have more capacity or potential for data collection and analysis, the Precise ParkLink option seemed to provide more revenue vis-a-vis cost, and there was more cushion in terms of, hey, if our revenues don't even hit what the lower projections are, at least we're covering our costs. And we may have increased costs associated with introducing paid parking in some places. We don't know what that's going to look like yet. So those were concerns. The other thing is that the Precise ParkLink proposal did provide an option to go with, so their main proposal was to provide us with refurbished meters, which are the same ones that they provided to Harrison Hot Springs. Harrison Hot Springs did basically what we're doing last year, only I don't think it was a free trial, they paid for it. They're in year 2. They made a lot of money last year, and their projections are even higher for this year. But they have a full-on service from Precise, and I think their peak demand is probably higher than ours. And they've got more stalls as well. So they did have, you know, speaking to their staff, Deputy CAO over there, she, you know, provided comfort in terms of dealing with them. You know, they're good to deal with and so forth. So that was a pro on that side of it. So they have the basic model meters, which are, you know, the cheapest for us to rent on a monthly basis, or we can opt for the trial period at no additional cost. They're upgraded meters. It's not their top of the line ones, but they do provide most, if not all, the same sort of reporting that the Easy Park ones would. Not quite totally sure of the differences that might exist. I did get a couple of examples of reports, but I think that we would get a lot of information and be able to do sufficient data analysis of our parking over the course of the summer if we opt for the higher model meters from Precise. So I think that by doing that, we would then be able to determine for year 2, do we want to actually pay for the higher model ones, or we know what this looks like and we're better off just going with the cheaper meters.
Peter, can I just interrupt you? Sorry,
Yeah.
we're about to hit our cutoff time.
Okay.
We need a resolution to extend for an hour. That's a motion and a second. Thanks. All in favour? Opposed? That carries. And that was made at 21:58. Okay. Sorry, Peter.
That's good. So I think that, you know, my recommendation is to go with the Precise ParkLink proposal with the higher grade meters for the trial period, and then we would decide next year whether or not we wanted those higher grade or the lower ones.
Okay, I think that probably gives us a good enough
Yeah.
understanding of what we're looking at here. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously many technical details. Council's aware of my position on this, that metered parking is only one leg of a multi-legged stool, but for parking, that is. But can I just understand? So the EasyLink, not EasyLink, what are they called? Precise ParkLink. Sorry. The meters that we would take are pay by plate or pay by tag.
They pay by plate.
Okay.
They can do pay and display as well, but they can do pay by plate. The lower model ones cannot do pay by plate.
Okay. So we'd be going with the higher model ones
That's my recommendation.
that are pay by plate.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah, we could even configure the higher model ones to do pay and display in a location where, for example, like if we were to say, okay, in Kelvin Grove parking lot, we're going to have metered parking, it'll be X amount per hour to a maximum of whatever, and residents can park for free, because maybe we're estimating that the demand is not so high that we need to cut off residents from using that parking lot. The bylaw officer's gonna have to go around and check the dashboards, or, you know, check to make sure that there's either a ticket, or they're in the phone, or if the car has a resident permit. So if he's gotta check the car for resident permit, he might as well check it for a parking ticket as well. That's just one option.
Well, that's assuming you can
occurs to
see
me.
the decal this year, because it's essentially the 10% grey. As I don't know if you put yours on yet, you can't see it. Okay, and in terms of the virtual parking solution, they can or cannot handle pay by phone. The brand pay by phone.
Not precisely.
Okay, so so their brand is
Telepark.
okay.
That's their branded telephone or mobile parking option, and their coverage map shows quite a wide coverage for the metro area. But I don't know what the numbers are.
Well, I'm sure it's wherever there's a cell signal, right? It works.
No, I don't mean. I mean, I don't know how many subscribers they have versus the pay by phone
existing,
brand.
Yeah. Well, my understanding from having done this last year is that yeah, I don't even want to quote the number, but I think it was something like pay by phone had 80% penetration of the virtual pay market. But be that as may. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, you know, as you know, fine as far as it goes, but it doesn't go far enough. Now we did receive a late report, which was pulled on a parking plan. I didn't like that parking plan at all. It wasn't even a plan. It was a commented memorandum that I'd sent to Peter on some suggestions.
Excuse me. I took it as these are your recommendations. That's how you laid it out. But we're not
Okay.
debating it because it's not on the agenda.
It's not on the table.
So, from a council member's point of view, I see a recommendation here from staff.
For this
Yes.
parking meter thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, that,
Yeah, so that's right.
that's
So
really what the purpose of the report is here.
the
That's what
report
this
is,
report
is,
is,
a,
yes.
is a
Yeah.
staff recommendation,
So-
and I'll just remind us that the recommendation is that the proposal of precise park link in response to the RFP for a meter parking services trial in Lions Bay be approved. So the proposal is going to be presented to us enclosed, but I believe we've all seen it
Mhm.
as an on-table.
Yeah, you don't have to go to close to discuss it
No.
if you don't need to. If you've all read it and you're fine with it, don't have any
Yeah.
questions about the numbers or percentages or the math or anything like
It's
that.
a trial period.
So my question is, if council was to adopt this recommendation, how would all the rest of parking work? In terms of signage, in terms of debating when parking lots open and close.
Our parks bylaw sets out where some of those parking lots, what their hours are, like Kelvin Grove's parking lot.
Okay, well, my understanding, for example, is that the Lions Bay Beach Park lot would be open 24/7.
It would have to be because
Okay, anyway, I'm not asking for details because we don't see them, and I'm not expecting you to stump them up.
well, clearly, if we're going to install metered parking in 3 locations, any signage that is inconsistent with the terms of that metered parking would have to be pulled or changed. And if I remember correctly, the precise proposal included signage at each location.
Some signage, yeah, they gave some mock-ups of what it would look like. I don't know how much they would provide. I don't know because I haven't seen, nor do I have seen any kind of even casual plan. For example, where would residents park at Kelvin Grove Beach Park
They would park in the parking lot.
and pay?
That's up to you guys.
Well, it's a
We
question.
need a plan. I mean, we're not going to debate every aspect of a parking plan that I wrote a year and a half ago that was 90 pages long. We're not going to go through every detail around a table live.
Which
So-
is why it would have been nice to have a discussion about all of those aspects that tie in with this, notwithstanding their lateness.
Can I pull you back online for a minute
Sure.
on
Yeah.
charter here? This is a recommendation made by staff to start a trial period with this company to see
Mhm.
how it works. Okay, that's what we're debating. It's not 2 years down the road. It's not a year down the road. It's this period of time right now to see if we've got some possibility to create revenue and help us monitor some of the problems we have with parking.
Yeah, the caveat is that if we decide to go forward in year 2, we go with the same company.
Yeah.
That was part of the deal. in
That was part of
terms
the deal, yeah.
Yeah.
Of if it's free this year,
Yeah.
then it's, you know, you go with
That's
them
fine.
the next year.
Okay, so I'm willing to stop debate on this unless anybody else has something to point out. I will just say that this to me is yet another half-planned parking provision. It's not part of a strategic plan. I am opposed to undertaking pay parking because I don't understand what else is involved. I haven't seen the plan. This looks fine to me. Quite frankly, when I looked at the proposals, I actually chose EasyLink, Easy Park, whatever they're called, mainly because of their virtual pay solution. But I'm very happy that staff's recommendation picks the right one. But this is the tail that wags the dog. I'm waiving the recommendation. So I will call the question, but I will vote against it. And then I would like very much to know if the resolution does pass, what then?
Well, if I can jump in at that point, is what I read out of this isn't particularly any solution. What it is a research project that will dovetail into the final plan.
Yeah.
But we're trying to get some numbers and data to figure out really where we should go with this. So I think it's a tool in the process.
I did consider that position, and I wish it was the case. We all know that if we get this wrong, pay parking is dead in Lions Bay for a generation. Because there will be whatever is worse than an outcry. There will be blood in the street, and it will be my blood. Because I'm the parking plan guy.
Yeah, we haven't finished the parking plan yet.
We haven't got any parking plan. I am not willing to introduce pay parking absent a plan. I want to know what the plan is. I'd love to have pay parking, but as part of the plan. So I take your point, good one, but it's not enough for me.
So can I make a comment?
Yes.
Of course.
If you don't park in a metered parking lot, you park on the street. If you park on the street, it's going to say no parking, or you can park here, or it'll say resident parking only, whatever it says. So, for the time being, that's the plan. If metered parking is a disaster, if you get feedback right away that blows your hair back, change the rules of the game.
Too late.
Wait, no, it isn't. You can
It's the
say.
end of pay parking.
You can say.
You can say, oh, sorry, we got it wrong.
Residents-
Because
no,
we
you
don't
can
actually
say
have a plan. We were just-
Residents can park for free.
we-
The whole thing is a trial, Carl. It's to see how would it work.
There's
And
a-
then if it works, if it even provides anywhere close to enough revenue to cover the costs of doing it, then you work that into a bigger plan and say, here's how we're going to accommodate this, and here's how we'll provide for residents. You've got basically one high demand lot that everybody wants to park in, and there's not enough room for everybody to park there. Do residents have other options? Yes, they do. Do visitors have other options? No, they don't. So it seems pretty straightforward,
What if
but
residents
you're not
want to
going
go
to
for a
know
hike?
until you test it.
What if residents
Pardon
want to go for a hike? Where do they park?
They can park up at Sunset and
No.
pay, or they can
You
park,
want residents to pay in Lions Bay to go hiking.
or they can hike from their home, or they can park somewhere else, because most of the streets, other than where it's unsafe to do so, are not resident-only parking. You can park anywhere.
But you can't park at the trailhead. Only visitors
No,
can park there.
because there's only about an estimated 15 spots where
Okay,
if
well,
you want, I mean, if you don't want to make any money, fine. This isn't
don't
about
wanna make
making
money.
money.
The whole-
It's about providing a place for visitors to park. So if you say that at Sunset Trailhead, residents can park for free, then they will, and then your visitors won't have anywhere to park, and then they'll be all over where they shouldn't be. And they're the ones who are harder to educate about where they should park. Residents are easier to educate, I would hope, about alternative parking areas. And they know better where to park on a street or not on a street. And they know better that, hey, there's a school and it's only a kilometer away, I'll park there.
I would rather be known to be a part of council that's forward-thinking and realizes the value of looking at something like this from the point of view of the parking problems that we already have. And that we know we've got some problems in some areas of parking, and this is part of a solution that might work to solve the problem. That's it. It may evolve into a better thing, it may not. If it doesn't, we pull the plug and away we go.
There's no commitment for year 2.
That's right. So I don't see what the damage is. I really don't.
I do. But are we ready for the question? Fred?
Yeah.
Yeah? All in favor? I'm opposed. I'd like that noted, please. Okay, so Peter, you've got your marching orders there. God help us all. Because that's what it's going to take. And now we are going to public question comments. Where did it go? Slipped out. And I'll take a motion to close the meeting under 91A, C, F, G, I, K, J, and 92. Is it B?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
B. Is that a motion? Thanks, Jim. And a second. All in favour? Opposed? That carries.
Are we supposed to deal with that?
Only after we come out of close. Okay, it is approximately 12:27 in the morning, and we're reporting out of council. So a few things to report out. The first is that council resolved rates for parking, for metered parking, which the rates of which will appear in the minutes of the open meeting, having been transcribed by staff from their notes. The second item that's been reported out. Oh, okay, thanks. Yeah, actually, yeah, this is that council authorized staff to clean up and optimally configure the Lions Bay Beach Park according to the proposal provided by
Precise
Parklink, and to draw $1,650 from the parking budget. Is that good for you? That works? Yeah? Okay, so that can go into the minutes.
for line painting.
For line painting, yeah. And finally, council approved extension of the contract for Stephen Olmsted, our planning consultant, in the amount of?
Up to $7,500.
Up to $7,500. Okay, so that does it for that.
And the time period. Because actually, I forgot the time period.
It'll be in the open portion of that.
For the contract?
Yeah. Just realized.
Well, we can do that now in open because the closed portion's
Yeah,
come,
yeah,
so we
yeah,
can
yeah.
quickly. So
Extend the date to.
can I have a motion
end of
to
the year.
report those out and a second? Any further discussion? All in favour, opposed, carried. So that goes into the minutes. Okay, Peter, you want to just do that motion on extending on the term of the contract?
To the end of the year. Just
Fine.
a second.
Okay, so this is a motion in open to extend the term of the contract per the debate that's now been reported out from closed to the end of the year. Can I have a motion in a second? All in favour? Opposed? That carries. We have one more item, and that's the fees bylaw. And Peter, this is in fact as discussed. Will it need any amendment?
Yeah.
Yeah, the day doesn't end. This is for 24 hours.
So the first one, what I've got here is after 16 per day, put in brackets 24 hours.
Yeah.
Maximum 3 days.
Yeah.
And Calvin Grove, I don't think needs any amendment. And Sunset Trail will have the same italicized wording as the Calvin Grove wording.
Except this italicized thing on the left-hand side.
Yeah,
Permit holders
permit
exempt from fee,
right?
and permit holders exempt from fee for both of them.
Right, so, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Um,
So that amendment. We didn't discuss
And the rates.
holidays, stat holidays. Anyway, so.
So on the rate for this, again, $8 a day, 24 hours. in brackets, instead of Dave ends at midnight, bracket maximum 3 days.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Same as,
That's what we
same
discussed.
as Roseway Beach Point.
Yeah, okay, fine.
And 3 readings?
Yeah, this is 3
Yeah.
readings.
Yeah.
So I don't believe we've got a seconded motion on, so can we have that? Thanks. So further to those amendments, any other discussion? So call the question on the fees bylaw number 497 of 2016, amendment bylaw number 530 of 2017 as amended. First, second and third reading. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay. Wait. Carried by majority vote. Fine. And I believe that is it. Here's the agenda.
Sorry, I didn't see. Were you opposed or no? I didn't note. On the fee bylaw,
Yeah, I'm wondering.
it's up to you.
You
I
said
didn't-
by
I didn't see the
majority vote.
hands.
You said by majority vote, what do you say?
Yeah, I'm just.
It's probably all it says.
It's a nicety. I mean, what difference does it make?
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, no, I'm not opposed. I'm all for fees, and I'm fine with these because they're. I was opposed to the other stuff.
Okay.
Right? And that was in open, so I can say I was opposed to the existence of pay parking, but these fees for it are fine by me. So that is unanimous. And motion to adjourn. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Meeting terminated at 32 past.
Well, I think it's